Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the February 11th, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we all get started, if we could all rise for our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, please.
God of all creation, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are worthy of praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all of our blessings. Thank you for every gift that we've been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us accomplish our work and our goals. As always, those that chose to pray with us, we each pray to you in the manner we were taught. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I want to welcome everybody in attendance tonight and everybody at home that is viewing. As I mentioned to everyone in the audience, I will clear the room as quickly as possible. So what we'll do first is if I could call on Callie Roberts for the American Diabetes Association. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, I have the right one. All right. It's a good first step. Come on up. Hi, Callie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Thanks for coming tonight. Callie, if you can officially introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Okay, I was here last year, and I'm Callie Roberts with the Tour de Cure Planning Committee. And the Tour de Cure is a fundraiser. It's a marquee fundraiser that takes place at the Topsfield Fairgrounds. It takes place each year. It's been around for 25 years. Tracks over 1,200 participants from the community. It is a cycling event. It's also a walk-run 5K, which started last year. And anybody is welcome to participate. And I'm with the American Diabetes Association.
Okay. Thank you for that background. For everyone on the board and for those out watching tonight, I would like to read from Lieutenant Scott Hatch. It says, thank you for your inquiry on being granted permission to have the Tour de Cure pass through Georgetown on May 19, 2019. We have had the pleasure of working with your organization and your events in the past years and have had no issues. As a representative of the police department, I do grant you permission. As in the past years, I do remind you that you must contact the Board of Selectmen's office as to make sure you are in compliance with any requirements that they have. I wish you a fun and safe event. So you do have permission from the police department. So with that, I would like to open up any questions from the board.
If I will, just all the typical permits and whatnot, those are all in order, the insurance and same as last year? Okay. Yeah. The only thing I'll just bring up to the board is, so that's going to be a busy weekend for us. So we have one on Friday, looks like, and maybe one on Sunday. So just something for us to maybe keep in mind long term. But no, that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else?
How many years has this been now?
I believe this will be our 25th year.
No, here in Georgetown.
How long have we been going out in Georgetown, the routes? I believe that we've gone through Georgetown for several years.
Oh.
So, through 133.
Okay, I was just curious on that. It's always been successful, hasn't it?
I've been with the Tour de Cure for my 12th year, and we've had great success, and we're meeting and reaching our goals, and we have security vehicles that follow the riders, and the walkers and runners are just within a 5K distance of Topsfield Fairgrounds.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Ted, if you would, make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant the permit for the Tour de Cure American Diabetes Association cycling event to be held on May 19, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All said. Have a wonderful event.
Thank you. I hope you'll participate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a request for Ride to End Alzheimer's. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Sarah Trimble. I'm here on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association with the Ride to End Alz. It is another fundraising cycling event. It starts and ends up in Rye, New Hampshire. We have 3 different distance options, the 100, 62, and 30, and the 100-mile rides through Georgetown. And we are now in our 23rd year of doing this cycling event.
Well. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. As I did prior, I would like to read a letter for everyone watching and for the board. I have received a request. This is also from Lieutenant Scott Hatch. I have received a request to travel through Georgetown as part of the Alzheimer's Association charity bicycle event on June 22nd, 2019. Your association has been very responsible in your past rides, and I see no reason why we can't continue to offer our support to your event. As a representative of the police department, I am approving your plans to utilize our roadways for this event from the standpoint of safety. Full permitting is at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen. As always, I would remind your riders that the streets are somewhat narrow and may contain white fog lines, and to use extreme caution when riding. I have attached the acknowledgement on behalf of the police department. So we do have approval from the police department already. So with that being said, Sarah, is that all you have for us? Okay, I would like to open up questions for the board, from the board.
As always, I'm sure all the paperwork and everything's in order. How many people do you get turnout for that?
This year we're expecting about 500 people with a fundraising goal of $650,000. Yeah. I know, that's what I say every day.
Any other questions from the board?
No, that's a lengthy 100 miles.
Yeah, it's a lengthy ride. They leave Rye, New Hampshire at 6:30 in the morning. It's a long day, but a fun one.
No, if you're gasping for air, it's fine.
Well, luckily those 100-milers have been training all year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you won't see me
Yeah, they don't.
on
The
the
30-milers, maybe you'll see them gasping for air, but those 100-milers are
100 miles.
pretty on pace.
This isn't happening. Any other questions from the board? Okay, if not, can I have a motions, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant the permit for the Ride to End Alzheimer's to pass through town on June 22nd, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All set?
Thank you very
Have
much.
fun.
Thank you.
All right, let's, moving on. Second annual Laurie Hodges Memorial. Hi, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. And same thing, if you could introduce yourself.
Ashley Steves from High Five 'em. I'm representing Laurie Condon Hodges' second annual Memorial 5K Run Walk to be held on April 6th here in Georgetown. Again, 5K, both run and walk. This is the second annual. Last year was a huge turnout from the Georgetown community, very overwhelming. I was actually just meeting with the family for our meeting tonight, and just completely overwhelmed and really excited for obviously the second annual and trying to raise the bar that much higher for this second annual event. Last year we had over 500 participants, both walk and run included, and they raised over $5,000 for a trust that's in Laurie's name. That trust benefited 3 high school seniors from Georgetown High for continuing kids that were in athletics continuing education. So it was a phenomenal event and really excited for this year.
All right, great. Thank you for the background on that. Questions from the board?
How did it go last year?
Great. It was the police were phenomenal. We started and finished at the Pearly School, and it was a great route that had been done prior with the Donahoe Run. So I was very familiar with the police, and it worked out really well.
Are you expecting more participants
Hopefully.
than last year?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it was a cold day, but the sun came out right in time for the start of the event, which was awesome. And yeah, it was great. So we'll be utilizing the Pearly School, which I have permission and permit for already, like for in the gymnasium for the start and like for the kind of after stuff, just in case we get another cold day. But that's really the only change that's been made for this year.
Will the old MC be back?
Yes.
I like him.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
Yes. Fan favorite, yes.
Anybody else? All right, just for some background, by the way. So Laurie Hodges was a Georgetown resident who unfortunately lost her battle with cancer. Laurie left behind 3 children and her husband, Ben, who's a really great guy, great citizen of Georgetown. So I'm excited to have this event back in Georgetown. It's certainly for a great cause. So we appreciate you kind of stepping up and heading it up. So anyway, with that being said, can I have a motion?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the license for the second annual Laurie Hodges Memorial 5K Run Walk on the evening of Saturday, April 6th at the Pearly School, starting at 5 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Aye. Fantastic. Okay, all set there. And do you have another one?
I do, yeah. I don't know if you wanted
May as
to.
well,
Great.
may as well get to the other one.
Perfect.
Because I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, you had to sit through a huge meeting because I was dumb enough not to call you up early.
That's
so
okay.
We're going to get you in and out of here.
That's okay.
So, which I apologize for. So why don't you tell us about this one?
Sure. So the second one is at Flatbread up the street, and it's will be the 3rd annual this upcoming year. It's been a really fun event. It does attract a little bit more of a crowd out of Georgetown. So we have kind of runners from all over. I think Cambridge, up through southern New Hampshire participating. So a little bit more community outreach for this one. I think it's just the attraction of the event. It's a Friday night. It's different. Again, really family driven. It's been beautiful weather the past couple of years, so we've been able to utilize the outside patio just for a really fun, family friendly evening. So basically, they do a 5K run, and then we bring them back and they get pizza, and we have a beer sponsor that's associated with the event, and everything is kept inside the Black Swan Country Club for the post-event. So it's just a really kind of quick, fun event, on a fun, hopefully, summer night, before things get really busy for people's Saturday, Sunday morning. So a little different, but it's worked really great the past 2 years. No issues. This one we tend to invite more of the runners because it's a little bit. We of course offer walkers, but it tends to be a little more runner driven just because of the kind of walking out on 133 and stuff. So we try and keep it mostly to runners, just so we can kind of get them back in and get kind of the party started afterwards.
Great. Thank you. Once again, any questions from the board?
No, I like that it is to go to support the Erie 4 Fire Association.
Yeah, they've been a great contributor, and we've really developed a nice partnership with them throughout the past couple of years, and also doing another event for them in the fall. That's been definitely one of their, I think, most successful fundraisers they've had in a couple of years. So it's been a really lucrative partnership, I think, for the both of us. So, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I'll just say that, both great races, but that fire 5K, that hill.
It is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I do get a lot of people talk about that. The runners come up Canterbury Hill, so it's definitely a good climb, and they're working that.
Yeah, I do them all. Always last place, but
So
No.
I'm just thinking to do that, and now that you said that, I'm not going to.
It's on my lawn. I watched it.
you drove by me last year and waved. Yeah.
Yeah, we do get a lot of supporters out on that course. It's fun. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right, if not, can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the license for the third annual Flatbread Fiery 5K for the evening of May 17, 2019, which will support the Erie 4 Fire Association.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nope. Actually, all set.
Great, thank you very much.
Wish you luck.
Thank you, guys.
All right. All right, next on the agenda. Do you guys need anything from us? Oh, you can certainly stay. I'm not throwing you out. I just want to make sure you guys aren't waiting for anything more from us.
Nope.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Like I said, I wouldn't want to bore you with town business. So next we have a request from Concom for the appointment of Chris Candia and Elizabeth Clark. You guys can come on up.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you.
Good. Thanks for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so if you could both introduce yourself to the board.
Okay. I'm Chris Candia. I've lived in town for 30-plus years. I've recently retired a couple of years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Decided I'd like to get involved with something in town. I love the environment, and asking around, it was suggested that I look into the Conservation Committee, and I thought it was a worthy committee to join. So here I am.
Just have it.
Yeah.
And providing some time. All right. So I'm going to go on a limb and say you're Elizabeth.
That's me. So I've been in town for about 4 years now, I think.
Okay.
Time flies. We have a 2.5-year-old, well, almost 3-year-old. So, yeah, I just want to get involved and give back to the community and kind of become integrated into the community more. Conservation definitely is in my blood. I studied marine science and biology, and right now my career has gone in a different direction. So to kind of keep my feet wet and learn more about how the Conservation Commission functions, the regulations and everything, and again help protect the environment and do the right thing. So I'm just happy to do what I can to help the town.
Well, thank you both, for volunteering your time. So we have any questions from the board?
Why Concom?
For me, it was about the environment. I like the outdoors very much, and I am concerned about our environment and want to make sure and understand that it's protected. So I thought this was a good committee to join to figure that all out.
I got to figure how to. So you have a balanced view of conservation, not one that leans to.
No, I just want to make sure that, everything is the way it's supposed to be. And through the committee, I hope to learn where the straight and narrow is. And
conservation can be a touchy subject, and wetlands and all that.
Right. Yep.
So I trust that you have the ability to see both sides.
Yes, yeah. I'm a good listener. I owned a preschool for almost 20 years, and so patience is a virtue. And then from there, I went into the medical field for about 8, from which I retired. So again, listening, understanding.
Great.
Elizabeth, what about yourself? How do you stand on certain things?
Similar, but I have a background. I did my master's research in native versus non-native fruit selection by birds. So I have a little bit of a background that may be useful to the commission. And again, the interest in the areas that they focus on. But again, balanced. I understand regulations, and that's the letter of the law is the way you have to go, right? So I understand that completely.
Well, again, I think it is a delicate kind of topic because, I think what we would like is for people to be open-minded, to certain things as the town tries to further itself with some expansion, some business expansion specifically, where I think, at times, maybe we've had, folks that haven't been open-minded, right, to, okay, you know what, we understand here, but we also have to understand that this project over here might affect, a ton of people, and, let's try to meet in the middle somewhere. I guess that's what we're getting at. We want to make sure that you have an open mind to everything that comes your way, rather than saying, nope, there's a certain aunt that lives here, we're not going to do anything, I mean, we try to shy away from that. So, any other questions from the board?
I'll go. Yeah, I'm concerned, Elizabeth, when you say the letter of the law, because the state has rules for conservation, and then they, from what I understand, they allow the town. And the state, I guess, is much more liberal, where Georgetown is very conservative when it comes to our conservation. But I believe that the job of the Conservation Commission is to try to come to decisions. That it's not always to the letter of the law. Sometimes, you're supposed to say back, say 100 feet from a certain wetland. Sometimes somebody needs to go a little closer, and you need to try to find the answers for that. So I think a lot of it is coming up with answers and solutions, not just protection. Because people have lived in areas for many years, paid their taxes, but maybe they want to put on an addition or a swimming pool when they're close. We need to take that into effect. So do you feel you'd be able to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, because the way you said it, I was ready to say no.
No, I'm a flexible.
When it comes to conservation,
I'm flexible for sure, and I can listen and understand. I just thought I would have a different perspective and understand a bit about the ecology, and I might be able to contribute something in the conversation. I'm not saying that this is the way it is. No, I understand.
Sometimes there's trade-offs, and many times they find out, okay, we can let you do something here, but now you've got to not do something over here.
Right.
And a lot of it is, it's a difficult board, and it's probably one that we, as a board, put the applicants through the most, because I think it's about the only board that we really kind of say, we want to see them people. We don't do it for everybody, so you're special to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My pleasure. Anybody else have any?
I'll just echo the same sentiments. I think we're just looking for a balanced approach to both sides. It's we've definitely seen some people that are on extreme ends of both sides, and just looking for a balanced middle. That's all. So I appreciate you stepping up.
Steve, you have any questions?
Yeah, I appreciate you stepping up.
And we've acquired a lot of conservation land over the years, and for me, I think it'd be good to see some of it get used more for what's the term, passive recreation. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Not so much active, but walking in the woods, and we've got open space committees working on that, and so there's also that aspect of it. It's also, opening up some of the open lands or the conservation land that Georgetown has acquired over the years.
Very good point. All right, anybody else? Okay, we can have a motion.
Yes, I need to ask Janet. So one appointment is for till June of this year, and the other appointment's till June of next year?
Yes, because they're filling on expired terms, so they're keeping the staggered, and then...
So then I'll do them one at a time then. So, Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Chris Candia to the Conservation Committee for a term to expire June 30, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Elizabeth Clark and appoint her to the Conservation Committee for the term expiring June 30, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you for being willing to serve the community.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's huge.
Good thing you weren't going for a Supreme Court seat.
Oh, goodness.
You're on the lawn.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. All right. Jamie, why don't you come on up?
Yeah.
You're the last one standing over here. Appreciate your patience.
Yeah. It's a quick business tonight, so not a problem.
So welcome again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to come out.
Pleasure to be back. Should I can plug into a device of some kind, or should I circulate materials? I don't want to be a bother, but if it's helpful, I can plug in with a computer.
HDMI plugged in.
Yep, that's right, yeah.
Well, you have it printed off?
I do as well, yes. So I've got both.
Instead of going through all that, you want to just, if you hasn't printed off already anyway, you may as well just circulate those.
Okay.
Is that okay with the board?
People at home
Yeah, you need to be able to see.
Very good point.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Sorry.
I came prepared for both. Hopefully we can.
Thank you for pointing it out.
Let me just get some things going here. Pardon the delay while I set up.
Anytime.
Let's see if we can get this thing rocking.
I remember I was teaching.
Oh, is that right?
This one's better than
All right, we'll give it a
All
try.
week to set up the display and all the equipment. Left it unplugged till we tested it. Left it unplugged for the weekend. Came in Monday morning, plugged in.
This looks like an adapter to the HDMI for Lightning. Can I take this part off? Okay. Yeah. Roger. It's yours. Let me just get the thing open here. All right.
Don't get me started there.
That's why I'm getting started.
If the technology fails us, we'll move to the handouts.
Well, my technology has failed me. When I click to open it, it goes, nah, you're not
Is this on HDMI?
privileged instruction.
You know? With the HDMI.
Let's see here.
I've never used it. The serial.
Oh, whoa, disco. All right, it worked. Fantastic. He said when he was trying to get the PowerPoint to... There we go. Okay. Okay, ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Can you make sure that they have this on the screen on the TV? This is the whole. There we go. All right, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, I am back this evening, obviously, to follow on to our prior discussion from a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for the invitation. The thrust of the presentation today is to provide more information about myself and the team and the project. I think that was the request. The last meeting, I came as more of an informal sort of introduction, so with apologies to not having these materials at that time. But this is my supplement. So without further ado, I will scroll down here. So this is a high-level overview of the team members, and we're going to go into more detail in the following slides, but I at least want to sort of introduce conceptually at a high level all the team members on a single slide. So at the very top, of course, that's myself, Jamie Fishman, founder. In my background, in the sort of thumbnail you see there is a resident of Boxford. I'm an attorney, I'm an accountant, I'm a software executive. I've got a lot of cross-functional business expertise that we'll see in more detail on the following slide. Mr. Mira couldn't join me this evening. He's actually out of town, regrettably, but as you know, he attended the meeting prior, and he's a local business person with a lot of experience. He owns a construction company that's in the adjacent parcel to the proposed site for this project. He's also agreed to serve graciously on our advisory board, which is paramount, especially with regard to the construction facets of the project. His expertise will be very welcome. The next leaf down is a angel group that I actually co-founded in the Boston area, where we call ourselves the Unofficial Syndicate, and this group is comprised of business people from around the area, but also across the country. They're just part of our business network. We fund various projects. We'll go into more detail on that in a moment, but the group will provide some, but not all, of the funding for this initiative. Just below, Rory Rawlings is a tech pioneer turned cannabis entrepreneur. I've known him for many years. He's the owner of two companies, Craft AG and Oil Essentials, which is one is an agricultural company, the other is a extraction sort of distillate cartridge provider in the B2B market in Washington. And so he'll be serving in an investor advisor, channel partner capacity to Humboldt East. Just below him, introduced by him to Mario Sherb Guzman, who's the founder of Sherbinski's, which is a very, very famous cultivation and product that's in California. Mr. Sherbinski, as he's known in his sort of more public name, is the inventor of the very famous, world famous gelato strain. If you've ever heard of that, if you've been in the cannabis world, he actually invented that strain. So he's got a lot of experience, along with several other famous strains as well. Then, of course, there's an accoutrement of contractors. Notably, we've tagged Davis Malm, who's a law firm, a very prestigious law firm in Boston, to assist with the application process for the CCC. They'll be reviewing it in an advisory capacity. They've got several applications pending with various clients. I'm a former client of their firm in a totally different, unrelated matter in the real estate realm, and came to know of them and their prowess in this particular vertical. Then, of course, we've got various constructions and architect firms that we've been working with to socialize the cost, and we haven't crystallized those yet, but they're in flight. So that's sort of the high-level team overview. More details, because details are important when you're trying to understand who you're working with. So that handsome fellow on the left is me. And when the face sells, you got to put it in the presentation, right? So Boxford resident, so town over, do all my commerce here, as Boxford has no commerce to speak of. So also father of 3 kids, 15, 12, and 10. But from a business standpoint, the president of a software division for a global consulting firm with about 2,300 employees. I was on their board for just about 4 years. I've got multi-million-dollar P&L responsibility and revenue growth. I'm also the former CEO of a Massachusetts-based software company that I drove 425% growth to over a 6-year period and provided a very successful exit with large ROI for my investors. Prior to that, I was a senior vice president of sales, marketing, business development for a software subsidiary of a Fortune 500 company. Our subsidiary had been in the market for decades, but when I took over the SVP role, I grew out our record sales by 152% for year-over-year recurring revenues in the software business, and I created a services line that was another multi-million-dollar stream, which grew by over 273% in its second year of existence. I then positioned the company for exit, delivered over $100 million of profit to the parent organization. Former general counsel for a mass software company, former insurance defense litigation attorney, did my undergrad at Northeastern, law school at LSU, and I've got experience in sales, marketing, mergers, acquisitions, strategy, alliances, legal, finance, software design, and implementation. So that's me.
How did you even find time for all of that?
Well, I didn't say I was good at any one of those things. I just do a lot of them.
All right. Really 82. Next 40.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. By all means.
Who are you planning to have as the manager of the operation?
Well, I'll have overall responsibility for the operation, but we're bringing in sort of a master grow person who will run the day-to-day operations for the grow.
Who was that on the slide? I'm sorry.
We don't have that person on the slide yet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Norino Mira is the obviously town person that you're probably the most familiar with, but as I came to know him and more about his business, I was super impressed to learn that their business has operated for over 65 years, and they've expanded to various locations, but are headquartered, as you know, here in Georgetown. And as you also know, he's done the very successful townhouse project that's just across from Mira Construction. And excuse me, as a reminder, has agreed to serve on our advisory board, which is very important. The unofficial syndicate, more on that. The group, again, an angel investment group that I helped co-found, has invested in all sorts of things, from esophageal cancer screening devices to technology companies. Many of the many of the members of the syndicate are board members of other organizations, presidents, founders, very successful in industry. And so we're going to bring that money, but also that experience, which is very important to apply to this particular project. To the right, I undersold Mr. Rawlings a little bit when I introduced him as a tech pioneer on the initial slide that had the leaf sort of motif there. Mr. Rawlings helped co-found a company called Avalara that went public last year. He is there being pointed out on the Wall Street at their IPO that yielded a $2.6 billion market cap. He has left Avalara, and he has formed Craft AG and Oil Essentials, and he has signed a letter of intent with us. There's a little thumbnail image of it to the upper right, where he has agreed to help consult with the cultivation, design, and facility operations, as well as interest in supplying product to the facility, so that we can stamp out some of his branded product through a distribution channel. Now, obviously, he can't ship active cannabinoids, but he can ship terpenes and packaging and things that facilitate the end product. Mario Sherab-Guzman to the left, founder of Strabinsky's. All those strains on those packages are strains that he invented. They are one of the most well-known genetics providers in California. His genetics are all over the state in various retail locations. Obviously, California was predominantly medical until just recently, so the retail of which I speak has been medical for that reason, but they're shifting into the retail recreational side right now. His genetics are also sold the world over. So we are in the final stages of securing him as a paid consultant to the project to augment Mr. Rawlings' advice as well. And then, as mentioned previously, we've got a law firm identified, and we're interviewing various and sundry construction and architectural resources to perform the contracting for the construction of the facility. So I'm going to take a breath for a second, and before I go in here, questions to this point? Anyone? We good so far? Okay. This is a screenshot that I took from the GIS database. I believe it's called MEMAPS, the one that's networked into this to the Georgetown website. I took off many of the filters because, boy, that's hard to read when all the zones are activated. But the green parcel, the highlighted one that you can see there, is Two Norino Way, and I've highlighted just below that. You can see where Mira Construction is, and to the left you can see where the Mira townhouses are. And here again, we have socialized this parcel with the Conservation Committee, and obviously there's nothing definitive, officially speaking, as of yet, but preliminary research has shown that there aren't any wetlands, to be confirmed in a more detailed sidewalk at a later date, weather permitting, of course.
So just for the people at home, if I could, the
yes,
townhouses that you labeled there are the long view of apartments. Yep.
Oh, yes. Sorry, that's a more accurate description. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Whoops. Went too far. And so that was hopefully a sufficient supplement to get more acquainted with me, the team, and my background and some of the resources that we plan to bring to bear on the project.
Well, thank you for putting that together. We certainly appreciate that.
Sure. No, my pleasure.
Very informative.
Yeah. Do you want to go back to that the diagram again, the map?
Oh, the map?
Sure.
Yeah.
So 1550J and 50G. If I'm correct, those are empty lots right now? Is that correct? There's nothing there right now? Yeah.
I believe that is correct. I think I want to say the one to the right is not owned by Mr. Mira. I'm pretty sure. I'm relatively certain that's true. I would have to go back and look. And unfortunately, of course, he couldn't join tonight. But
okay. Yeah, I saw it looks like, I don't know, is that supposed to be a building? See the small little...
Yeah, I think there's I think there is a piece of equipment on there, but I from the aerial map, I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like maybe a tower or well or something. I couldn't really tell what it was. Yeah. But there definitely was something.
It is. It's the water tower.
Oh, that's the water tower?
Yeah, that's where that. Yeah, that's exact. So that's a hill right there.
Okay.
Oh, it is on a grade. Yeah. So Tunarina Way is graded. Yes, that's correct.
That's all owned by the town then?
I don't know that.
But do you know, Mike?
What's the other road?
That's
Long Hill.
Oh, that's Long Hill. That's the new water tower. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
So
That's what we're saying is the whole property owned by the town.
But
We just have an easement or something at the
We
top.
have an easement for the water tank. I don't know if we own it though.
Okay.
And do you know if Mr. Mira owns the 50G lot, the one just below yours?
I'm not sure. That's a good. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
The assessor would know that.
Sure. Just a quick question about the operation. So do you guys plan on doing any growing outside?
No.
And I know that might be a crazy question, but I've learned that people in Maine actually grow.
Oh, yeah. There's one right around the corner from my mother-in-law. A couple things about that. First, obviously, I don't think we could hold up our part of the HCA from an odor control perspective if we tried to do that. So we wouldn't do it just for that reason, because I don't think there's a sufficient way to control the odor, and it's too close to all these other properties. So unless we're indoors, highly filtered, I think that would be bad. The other thing is, it's in this climate, it is very risky because very susceptible to mold in this area, and if you don't get your crop out early, it'll get wiped out completely. It's all for naught. So, yeah.
And how do you go through the mitigation for within the building?
State-of-the-art filtering systems, mostly carbon-based filters, but all designed through the facility designers that have done this over and over again. The Sherbinsky's and the Rawlings of the worlds that we bring to bear on the project, and then you buy the right gear, basically. Yeah, I was at MJ Biz in Vegas this past September, and boy, it looks like a giant laboratory with some of the gear they have. It's pretty impressive. So,
Okay, everybody all set with this? Yep. Yeah. We got to turn the lights back on.
Yes.
I was curious with the name Humboldt East, because I'm familiar with Humboldt, California.
Yeah.
But by any chance, are you associated with Humboldt's Finest Farms?
No, we're not. So let me explain the genesis of it, and so we do have a loose association with another Humboldt organization, which I'll explain in a minute. So firstly, with regard to the name, Humboldt County has sort of been the epicenter of cannabis for decades in the United States, supplying the vast majority of all of it, and it's the sort of original, right? Ocean-grown stuff. It's the place where it all came from. So I was looking at you for a nod to say yes, but you left me high and dry. So at any rate, the idea is that it's symbolic of the quality and the deep sort of experience that's brought to bear on the process, which we hope to bring to the Commonwealth, because we're working with folks who've literally invented strains and were breeders and have been steeped in all of those traditions for decades. And so that's what we hope to embody as part of this project and be sort of an artisanal, high-quality product. And so that's the genesis of the name. With regard to, are we affiliated with any other Humboldt companies? No, though I do have a signed letter of intent with the Humboldt Seed Organization, which is another breeding organization responsible for creating many different genetics, in addition to the letter of intent with Mr. Rawlings, and I can circulate copies of that. But the idea would be they would, here again, be another group that would help consult on the facility design, but also with an eye toward hopefully getting some of their genetics into the facility.
Questions? Go ahead, Gary.
I would follow up a little bit of what Steve brought up, and odor.
Yes.
Steve has had concerns with that, and I remember at times, this the odor from the. I'll keep the name out, from the one operating facility. And they're right next to the swamp. It's probably the skunk cabbage or something from the swamp. But one day I'm driving by, I got an odor in my car, and it didn't leave for quite a while.
Sure.
And so, as we have more and more of these requests, I think that it does become a concern. And we can all have the best equipment we want, but it's, at some point it's not, I don't want to say failures, but there's, sometimes you're allowed to emit certain percentages, and you might be on the high end of that percentage at one point or something. So how are we perhaps assured that I'm not sure the size of your operation compared to the one I'm talking about presently, but how are we assured that odor won't be? I mean, you seem very familiar. Mm-hmm. You've certainly done your homework with probably other operations that are already up and running.
Yeah.
So have they overcome this?
Yeah.
With the right equipment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are very large industrial grows that are able to control and contain odor using, all sorts of equipment that really boil down to filtering systems with HVAC, combinations of the airflow through the ducts, and the idea is that it's all got to go through the filtering system, and these filters have to be maintained. And in fact, the proposed language in the HCA agreement, I believe, says that we provide compliance to all CCC standards to eliminate odor from the RME so it is not released so as to constitute a nuisance to surrounding properties, and utilize a closed air system at the RME to not release or introduce any odor, any outdoor air into the RME. So the company shall employ odor control technology to remove odors and harmful volatile organic compounds (VOCs) from the RME, and shall ensure the proper maintenance of all odor mitigation equipment for maximum efficiency. So, we're sensitive to it on multiple dimensions. First of all, because we're saying that we're going to do it contractually, but more than that, Mr. Mira, who's on the advisory board, owns the surrounding properties, and he would be the primary impacted person, and so it's paramount that he not interfere with his long-standing businesses. We have to make sure we do it right for that reason alone.
And gentlemen, that's on page 7 of the HCA, just so
line item 13.
Yeah. Did that answer it, or you seem like maybe I didn't get you all the way there?
We can have the best technology going. At times, it doesn't always work.
I can appreciate that. Our intention is to build a state-of-the-art facility with the best odor mitigation control, and we have a stakeholder in the business who's got the adjacent properties, who's a local town business person. We're not, sort of the out-of-towners with a big pile of cash that don't care what the impact is. We just want you to say yes and then kind of move on with it. We're vested in this community in a very integral way that I think you don't see in the other projects that have come before you, if I dare say that. I think that's probably accurate.
So in addition, is there any state compliance that you have to follow, pertaining
CCC guidelines, yes, in which we state in the in the HCA agreement that we will obviously we have to comply with them, but we will comply with them in addition to just wanting to do it right.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I mean, I get concerned, and again, it isn't just myself personally. Constituents have called and have made comments, just like you had said, Gary. I think, obviously the apartment complex, we have residents there that have been there for a while, but it's also, as as all apartments are, right, it's somewhat of a transient group, right? People come for a year, they leave. My concern, I guess, is more on the other side, the Longview, where there are homes there. So they're, this isn't just, stay a year, and then if you're a little bit bothered with it, you can't just get up and move at that point. So that's what I would say, that just that area on the other side would be a little concerning. This is probably the closest, I think, that or the most impact to a residential area, I think, out of all the projects that we've had so far. So that's why I'm a little bit uneasy. Great presentation, though, and you did exactly what we had asked you to do. And it sounds like you have everything, in place, all set to go. But that's the only thing that I think, I'm kind of on the fence with is, what do we do about that?
Well, I echo that, Steve, but at the same time, this town also voted to put a certain area of town aside for businesses like this. Yes? So if he is in that zone, it's hard to then come back and and have like basically we can't put it on him. I mean, this is part of that designated zone. So I just want to make sure that is stated, right?
So remember that we also have a contract that if there were an issue, that it would need to be mitigated right away.
Correct, and our intention is to be a strong partner with the town and live up to the neighboring properties, which are partly owned by one of our stakeholders.
If I could actually, Mr. Chair, Water Commissioner is here. Can we pose that question? Mr. J. Yeah, Nick.
Should have the answer.
Is that okay?
We own it all.
If the question
Yes, you guys are trying to come early, huh?
This parcel here, so this is the proposed location of the growing facility on Marino Way.
By Long Hill?
Yeah, right there, I guess, is the new water tower.
Okay.
Does the town own this entire piece of property, or do we just have an easement?
I have an answer on that. That's owned by Crown Atlantic Company, LLC. We're a telecommunications siting company. That must be a cell tower.
Yeah. Oh, so that's...
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a well or a tower.
No, well, we have a tower there. I believe there's two parcels there, right, Mike? There's the parcel that has the water tower.
The water tower, right?
And there's the parcel, part of that is for a cell tower. And we had to build our own separate driveway because they wouldn't let us use theirs. So I do believe that the parcel is split.
So I guess the question is, does the town own property here and have a right-of-way across it for the tower, or do we lease it?
Okay.
No,
we have a 50-foot right-of-way coming up that side.
we don't lease it.
Well, it's not a right-of-way. It's a flagpole.
Yeah,
This is
driven
owned
by.
This is owned
That's
by the
ours,
town.
yeah.
Okay, and then you have a right-of-way going into that. Okay,
Yeah, there's a 50-foot.
yeah, seen the driveway.
Yeah.
And then this is owned by a cell tower company. They bought this land in 2008 for $3.2 million.
Is that within the overlay as well? Do you know?
I do not know.
Is the adjacent property in the cannabis zone? Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah.
I want to say that it is, but I'm pretty sure that it is. Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, Doug, why don't you get into the HCA for us?
Well, the community host agreement is the same, in essence, as the last one that we did with Peak Limited, and it stays within the state guidelines of 3%. Jamie wishes to build up to a 60,000 square foot structure to grow and do his processing in office areas. Other than that, it's the same. It's 3% on the gross wholesale revenues.
Okay. Any questions on the HCA?
Just a quick, actually, Doug, clarification about the 60,000 square feet. Was that not in the other one, in the other agreements?
No, it was it hadn't been determined yet what size was feasible, and it was an up to a larger number. But Jamie and I spoke, and Jamie came up with something that was probably more realistic to what he can do.
Okay.
So we agreed on a 60,000 square foot structure.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Originally, you were hoping for a larger.
No, a lot of the variables were in flight, so we just said up to the max canopy size, but that was not a tight enough definition. I think we all agreed for the HCA to get everyone comfortable that we would know the impact in the end. So we just agreed to say, here's what we think we can do. Let's roll with that.
Okay, so this is still what. So what's here is what you hope to do, not like your maximum achievement that you hope to get at some point. This is what you're looking to do?
This is what we're looking to do. That would be great if we could do that because, we would hope that we could get about 50% of the canopy under there, but to be determined.
If you want to get a mental picture of the size, Healthy Farms is roughly 65,000 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, that's helpful.
What they're using or the whole place?
The whole building.
Okay, thank you.
Jay, what are the time projections for everything if we get this HCA approved tonight, and I know you're going to move forward with the licensing and things like that? What are you, in your mind, what do you think we're looking at for time frame?
So we have to do several things. Obviously, we'll bring in the design team officially at that point because we've got a location that's been approved to design. That will take a period of months to go back and forth and get something ready to put in front of the planning board, which could take a couple months. So in parallel, we'll be working with Davis Malm on the application that'll be circulating through the CCC. So these activities are happening on kind of two swim lanes, if you will. I think that as soon as planning approves it, by that time we'll also have locked financing for the max structure that we can afford in that design construct, and we'll likely start swinging hammers before the CCC issues its license, which is backed up a bit, so that's probably a 12-month cycle. So we're looking, I did speak with the CCC, and they did confirm that we could expect it inside of 12 months, but 12 months is a safe estimate at this point. So exactly when does it happen? Well, don't know, but operational would be the goal within 12 months. Yeah.
Sure. Yes. So now that you're aware of, or you've determined what the max square footage is for the canopy, do you know what the requirements then will be for water consumption?
We don't know the exact water consumption that'll be required, but we did speak with Bruce Trumbull previously about that, and because we won't be going live until the fall, until 2020 likely, right? So he said at that point the new what's the term? Thank you. We'll have been live, and he said, not a problem. Timing's actually perfect, is what we were told.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So at this point in time, gentlemen, we have an HCA that I'd like a motion on.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the host community agreement between the town of Georgetown and Humboldt East LLC as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we vote? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Okay, what was that?
Aye.
You're an aye? Okay. And nay. So we got 4 and 1. Jamie, we're good to go, buddy.
Thank you very much for your vote of confidence. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Wish you all the best.
Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Nice
Likewise.
presentation.
Thank you.
Actually, you don't. Did you give us copies of that? Do you mind?
I didn't, but I will.
If you don't mind,
No, happily. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a couple of tabs, the presentations at the front, and then there's some letters of intent that are tabbed in the
Thank you.
We're going to sign this. We can sign it as well.
Yeah, sure.
We all set, all right?
Thank you. Oops, second notes.
Lots of wires.
Yeah.
My second 3-inch line was getting full now.
Gotta scan it.
Well, I put them all in the computer, but I like to have my files.
Let's give it a couple of minutes to get around.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Wish you the best. Okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
One copy for him. Yeah.
Does anybody have a problem if I initial and date each page? Thank you. Do you know which one we're keeping? We'll keep that one? They're both the same?
Yeah, we'll keep the unstable one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, yes, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'd love that.
Move it away.
Listen, I'm going away on Friday. I'm coming after you. Like,
It'll make me laugh then.
well, that's your business so much into it. I'll see like the whole meeting.
Just out during vacation.
It's just we end up with so many of these.
Yeah.
Are you?
Been there.
Makes sense. Just want to make sure all the pages are the right version.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I learned this from an attorney, so.
Taught you well.
I got the lot.
Oh, okay.
I just can't tell. Tried the lot. So and all medicinal marijuana.
Yes.
Turn groundwater off.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And so I sign one or both of these and give you back one. Is that right?
Both of them.
Let's see. Should we fill in the date on the top as well?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So So today's the 11th?
Well, it's also
Yes, light industrial, those colors are all on top of it there. And white choices of That's an example of some of the
Building we got war stuff, guys.
Does this go to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Jan, if you could just review that, just make sure everything is executed the right way, and then it'll be good.
Pure signed.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that had to be added was the date and then signed.
Good luck in your next steps.
What's that, sir?
Good luck in your next.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I really do appreciate it. Thank you all so much for helping me out. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Hey, Sherry. Hi, gentlemen. Why don't you come on up? How you guys doing? Good. How's it going, man? Good. How you doing, guys?
Hi, how are you doing? Mr. Chairman.
This is perfect, Joe. Look at it. We could just make a barricade, just leave them with the problem.
In hiding? Gentlemen, welcome. We appreciate you taking the time to come out again.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Well, I should say Nick again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. For the audience, if everyone could introduce themselves first.
Yep. Nick Lawler, 18 Pillsbury Lane, Light Commissioner and Water Commissioner.
Dave Schofield, 5 Bartlett Drive, Light Manager.
Steve King, 4 West Street, Water Commissioner.
Thank you, gentlemen. So for everybody out in the audience and actually more viewing, these gentlemen are here again to talk about the potential for the water and light merger. We started discussions with this board a couple of weeks ago. Nick was nice enough to come in a couple of weeks ago to start those discussions, and this meeting is kind of a follow-up to those discussions for additional questions, additional information, so that this board can kind of digest that and get comfortable with it. So with that being said, gentlemen, why don't you start with any additional information, and we'll take from there.
Sure. So I think there was about maybe four or five questions or points that you guys had either at the last meeting or afterwards where you got in touch with me. So I just want to make sure that I have them all and they're in here. So if I missed any, please let me know. Joe, one of your concerns and points was having a contingency plan in place. That's in here. We can talk about that more later. Kip, you talked about some implementation costs during the merger, consultant fees. I believe those are in here now. Steve, you had a couple of questions, one being union contract wage increases, how this would impact that, and also third-party review. And then more of the format, Steve, this was kind of more formatted towards how you wanted to see it, with which line items are going to hit in the budget.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So that's great. That's kind of the takeaways I heard last time. I don't know if I missed any. I think that was it. Okay. So I don't know where you guys want to start, but I guess we'll just start at the top. I try to break it into three different groups. So the top, the light blue shaded, is savings realized years 1 through 3, and those are annual savings. And we'll get back to there. In the middle is transition costs and contingency planning. And at the bottom is opportunities that can be realized if this is to happen, more of a long-term opportunities that exist. The savings in the top years 1 through 3, we see those throughout the life of the merger, and the hope is that they continue to grow, but those are savings that we would see right away. So for instance, if you look at the general manager, and please keep in mind all these numbers in here for salaries have the 1.5% or 1.5 times burden carrier in there. So that 240 isn't what the general manager makes. That's his salary plus his burden.
Plus benefits, right?
Yeah, plus benefit, yep. That number there is the number it's going to take right around there to manage both departments. So that's the new number. And if you look across, when I did the avoided costs for water and light, it was 80% was associated towards, savings towards the water department, 20% savings towards the light, and that's based off of revenue between those two departments. The only difference on this whole top part where that doesn't carry true is on the water engineer. 80% of the cost got put towards water and 20% towards the light, because that position will be more of a water position. And we can talk about that position a little bit later. But the rest of them, the avoided savings or the avoided cost, 80% of it is seen on the water side. They'd only be paying 20% of the general manager's fee, 20% of the office, because they're a smaller department. So that's which is customary for combined departments. So that's, the general manager is pretty straightforward one. We're not going to hire a general manager, so those savings are pretty easy to understand, I think. Is there any questions with the general manager?
Where did these numbers come from, Nick? How did these come around? Are these still projections?
No.
Or they're actual?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if you go down to the business group, those are actual costs for both groups. We think, like for the business group, for instance, we can run that with 3 personnel. Is what our projections are. So we're carrying. If you look at the numbers, that $335,000 for the light department. That's the most expensive business group. That's the business group that we're projecting to keep from a cost standpoint. That's a worst case scenario. The water engineer is a new position, so that's not shown as a negative number. That's a positive number. The water engineer is someone we don't have now. It's something we contract out with consultants. DEP annual reporting, that consumer conference report you guys get in the mail every year. Those are tasks that this person can do. But there's really just an abundance of things that this person could do for both departments. A few of them would be, create an energy efficiency program, something that we don't, have a great energy efficiency program, water conservation program, talking about technical concerns to the residents. Right now, that falls on the general manager. The general manager is trying to run his department. You don't have a lot of time to spend on those type of critical issues. Communication with boards. In Littleton, this person would go to the Board of Health, go to the Planning Board, come to you guys. So it would improve communications across the town. So we see that as, it's going to help the general manager manage the department, but it's also a value added that we don't have right now with either of these two departments. We're planning on doing a lot of infrastructure projects in the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully 5 years. This person will be responsible for getting on the public and telling the public what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what problems we're going to solve. And these problems don't get solved overnight. It takes a little time for the solutions to work out through the system. Well, this person will be a critical piece there.
So, Nick, if I could stop you there.
Yeah.
So this person is responsible for communicating both short and long-term vision of this water department, how water is going to be improved, what steps you're taking, things of that nature.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because I think that's been really lacking, in the water group, and I think that's critical for our citizens to understand that, good or bad. Whether, hey, you know what, we just can't fix this. This is just terrible. It's going to take $3 gazillion and we just don't have it. Or listen, with the resources we have, we can take these steps. It can take 10 years, it can take 20 years, whatever. I just think the citizens need to know what steps we're taking, whether it be small or large. So I'd like to hear that.
Yep. So that's. And it's just not to the residents, Joe, and to this board. It's across all the boards. This person could have communication with and explain the goals of our water department. Obviously, the general manager would have some of that responsibility as well. But this person can get into more details on For instance, when I came a couple months ago and talked about the TTHMs that we had an issue with you guys, this person could come in here and it's going to give you a lot more detail than I could or general manager could, because that's their field. That's what they're knowledgeable in. But this is a financial look at the department, so I carried that cost and counted it against the savings. So not only do we have these savings, we have a value add with that position. And then there's $30,000 right below the water engineer that person would offset. And another thing with this water engineer is, with all these capital projects, you still need consultant services to design and to oversee construction for any of these capital, which is standard with any construction work in, I would think, the town. This person could offset some of those costs and even challenge consultants with their costs and their duties. I didn't carry those savings anywhere because they don't really fit here, but it's opportunities down the road that this position could provide benefit to the town and to the ratepayer. So the facilities cost, unless there's any questions on that position. So the facilities cost, those are real numbers. There's one number I couldn't find, Mike, and I'm not sure if you know, but is the water department building insured? And if it is, is it insured through you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so that savings isn't in here because I didn't know what that insurance was. So there might be some more opportunity there, but it's not going to be a huge number. So the thought here is obviously if we merge or consolidate departments and one of these buildings goes away, those costs go away for to operate that building. The software, that's software and billing. I probably should have put that in there. It's not just software, it's software and billing services. So I think we talked about that last time. That's all of our business and billing pieces, and going to one bill would reduce significantly cost to the ratepayer. About $25,000 there alone would be able to be saved.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So it looks like that the current expense is, let's see, is $110,000, and you guys think it's going to go down to 55? Is that what you're saying? About a 50?
It's a 50, yes. Yep.
A 50. So how does the licensing work? And I know it's probably a granular question, but is it by the number of seats?
Yes, it is. And right now, the light department has enough seats to pull in the water department. Okay. Dave checked into that. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's a big piece. It's a big number.
Yeah, a lot of that's the cost of actually sending the bill out too.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I mean, the real savings there is getting to a single bill,
gotcha.
Which is also again a value add to the customers, the ratepayer. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, I'd rather see one bill. You call the office, you get one person to deal with either billing issue. Getting to a monthly bill for the water department is a good thing, not just for the water department for cash flow, but for the ratepayer. Because you're paying a bill every month, and you don't get these huge bills in the summertime when you're irrigating. Also, leak detection. When you bill quarterly, we get tons of calls, and all of a sudden the bill comes in. It's like, oh, how did my bill get so high? Well, because you had a leak. But we're billing quarterly, and that's the only signal that these ratepayers have that there's a problem. So when you go to monthly billing, hopefully, if the resident's paying attention, if the software is paying attention, you catch that and you head it off before it's too big of an issue.
Question there?
Yes, sir.
So you're saying on that sometimes you also notice that
The software should catch it. There should be bounds on. Yeah.
Okay.
There is software available that can detect whether or not you go over a certain amount of usage per month on the water side now.
Yep, it can even happen in the meter, which is the metering system that does that is the system that the light department already has in place, Itron. So there might be some opportunities there to, when you get down to one person reading meters for both systems at the same time, you'd want to be in the same system. I think there could be some savings to the fleet, but on a conservative number, I carried none, just because I don't want to speak and think of something that might not be there. But I would think at least one pickup truck could go away. The linemen and the water operators have unique vehicles themselves, so it wouldn't be there. It'd be more of a supervisor vehicle. But I carried nothing there, and assumed that we operate the same way, to be conservative. And then same with the operational salaries and overtime, I carried that the same throughout. I know maybe, Steve, this is the time to talk about the union issue, contract issue that you asked. I mean, these two work groups know their market value, and we negotiate with them on their market value. So there might be, I'm sure if you go through the union contract, there might be some language that needs to change as far as, being under one board and stuff like that. That's something the general manager can go through and negotiate with, but there wouldn't be any give for that. It would just be, we need to bring this language up to speed with how the other department's, structured now.
Sure.
But there wouldn't.
I think my question was more just, it sounded like there's going to be some cross-training for the operational groups. Is that not true?
I mean, I've been negotiating contracts in Littleton for forever.
I'm saying with the merger, is it going to be crossover where one operational team member can do both jobs or can help out? I guess that was the basis of my question. Is that if if you're going to start to say that, hey, you can take on some more responsibility, or if you'd like to get into this,
there's
thing, that's where they're going to come up.
There's opportunities to lend a hand, but these guys have highly skilled, different jobs. A lineman's not going to be able to go in the treatment plant and run the treatment plant, and vice versa. Water operators aren't going to be able to go out in a bucket truck and work on lines.
Okay.
So, during a water main break, could you have a lineman drive a dump truck and help out? Absolutely. But it's going to be, those are few and far between that you help them. Their daily jobs should remain the same. And then I threw the SCADA system in here, and again, I don't know if you guys even know what SCADA system is, but it's basically a computer software that allows engineers and managers and operators to interrogate field devices. They use it on the water side here in Georgetown now to monitor the treatment plant, tank level, stuff like that. We don't use it on the light department side. So this would be an opportunity where we have software license that we could begin to bring it to on the light side. Again, it doesn't affect the financials here. But we have, again, a lot of light departments use SCADA systems to their benefit. It helps with outage restoration, troubleshooting, stuff like that. So that would be a value add, probably more for an operational standpoint than anything.
It's not a separate license or anything?
No. I mean, it's possible because they all speak different languages, protocols. So you might have to buy that protocol, but it'd be a one-time cost for that. You would be covered under the license. So that's the years 1 to 3 savings. Any questions on that?
So you're projecting a little over $250,000?
Yep.
The first 3 years?
Yep.
Nick, with those savings, any thoughts on what happens with that money?
Yeah. So I looked at what $145,000 a year means as a bond. It's almost $2 million, about 1.9 for the water department. $100,000 is about 1.4 for the light department. If we jump down to the green block there, we talked about the buildings, and that $1.4 million would renovate if you were to bond it, which I'm not saying we would. We might have that money in our funds, but if you were to bond it, that comes at a cost neutral to the ratepayer. So you end up getting your building up to where you need it to be.
Which building are we talking about?
Searle Street. So the water department, if the consolidation happens, the water department building, we leave. I mean,
that's why I asked.
We should be leaving that building anyway.
Water billing you leave, you go over to Searle, and then you would put it back into.
So, I mean, this might be a good time to talk about the buildings. So what I carried here was $1.5 million for the water department to build a new home. It's my thought that it'd probably be at West Street where we have land. I mean, that would kind of make this. We don't have to buy land, so it's $1.5 million to build, an office, and you probably tie it into when you expand the water treatment plant. So it wouldn't happen now, but when we go to expand the treatment plant, maybe add offices in there and do it all at once under one contract. We project it out to be about $1.5 million. The light department is now looking at kind of reconfiguring their space and redesigning it. And they have estimates, I think it was just under $1 million. Or?
It was right around $1 million, yeah.
Right around $1 million. So we're looking at $2.5 million from a town standpoint. It's always ratepayer money, different rates, to upfit our buildings. If we were to consolidate, and I talked to Dave, he thinks that we'd have to add another $200,000 to his project to fit the water department to be conservative. So instead of spending $2.5 million, we're spending $1.2 million, and we're getting everybody under one roof. Then we're out of that dilapidated building that the light department left 20-something years ago, and let the water department squat there. And you can either rent it, I guess, for $30,000 a year, which I wouldn't advise. There's another opportunity that Dave started looking at was, and it has to do because the substation's right there, is removing the building and putting in natural gas peak shaving generators, which offset transmission. It's the same reason why these rates are going up. It offsets some of those rates quite drastically of increasing transmission and generation capacity costs that we have no control of. All we can do is try to offset those. So that $800,000 a year is a vetted number. There's a lot of math behind that. So that if we were to build, what's it, 5 or 4 megawatts?
4, I was thinking.
4?
Yeah.
4 megawatts of natural gas generators, we would get $800,000 a year. And you wouldn't see it it wouldn't be revenue in, you'd be offsetting your power cost.
Is there anywhere else that those can be built? I mean, that's a pretty nice piece of land that, I think can be sold for a decent amount of money, and then, someone can develop it.
It's not as much as you think there. If you see that project where they're cleaning that land over there, we're right up against it. I looked at that strip. Yeah, we even discussed talking to them, but they're in the middle of cleaning it out. They have electrodes in the ground, and that was, anybody that's been here for a while knows that used to be some type of manufacturing in there. And you're right, you're cuddled up right next to a substation, so I don't know what usage you'd have for somebody. But the return on investment on the peakers, the peak shavers, it's considerable. You're talking about $1 million a megawatt installed, $4 million that pays for itself in 5 or 6 years, and then you're with the house's money from then on to the tune of about $800,000.
And these have been done by about 8 different municipal light plants in the state already. We're not like cutting edge here. This has been done.
This is a model that's already been tried and true.
Pete Dion's done in Wakefield. He has his own personal experience doing this in Wakefield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. I just didn't know if there was other spots in town that maybe isn't as visible.
It needs to be near the sub. These things are. I'm told these new generators, you and I could stand outside of them running full load and have a conversation just like this.
There's another benefit to these as well, Joe. If we were to put these in, and I'm sure you remember last March we had that. Well, we had 4 nor'easters. The one hit us pretty hard. We were out of power for about 24 hours. We got lucky with that nor'easter, with that outage. And actually, Dave and I met with National Grid and Lenny Mara. And a tree fell down on the National Grid sub-transmission lines, and it was about 3,000 to 4,000 feet in on the swamp. They got access to that through a farmer's property. If they didn't get through it through a farmer's property, they were going to lay 3,000 feet of swamp mats out, which would have taken about 3 days. So if we have these generators near the substation, we have the ability to maybe backfeed our substation and get like the downtown area back up, get Crosby's going, get restaurants. So that way when we're all in the dark for 3 days, we have access to food, gas, because that was going to be a hard 3 days.
So it's a grid resiliency play as well, and we would set that up. You know, the big value is in the peak shaving operations, but we would set that up to be able to pick up the circuit downtown, perhaps. We still have to look into the engineering of this. And if we ran into that, God forbid it, I have a feeling going forward things aren't going to get better. I think they're going to get worse with the grid. I hope I'm wrong, I really do. But in that series of Northeasters, Ipswich and Raleigh lost their stations for 24 hours. We lost ours completely, both of them, for 12. And 12's a long time. Those of you who went through it, 12's a long time when it's cold out, windy. So we would be able to pick up downtown, as Nick had mentioned. People could go out to dinner. You know, people, the emergency services building wouldn't be on their backup generation, which is critical load only. They'd be at full load, and that's Crosby's. You know, big customers. We could at least light candles in our house and still be able to go out and get dinner and groceries. So that's a concept, but it's very doable. Okay. So it's a workaround to some of the problems with the sub-transmission lines coming up through this area.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You mentioned when you were talking about the buildings, Nick, on West Street. So if nothing happened, you've got plans, or you had plans.
Well, nothing. So
the building on West Street.
We have. That's where our treatment plan is. And if you look at, and when you look at our rate projections, I put some of the capital projects that we're going to do, which includes expansion to that treatment plant for additional capacity. So, because right now what happens is the guys are backwashing every day, especially during the summertime. The filter trains just can't handle the capacity. So you add more capacity, which needs expanded footprint.
So what you're planning on West Street would be more to do with the filtering system. It wouldn't be a workshop type office type thing.
It would be like, I think we'd have to internally within the building itself create an administration office for the guys, or a backflow testing facility as well. If we ever plan to expansion to the treatment plant.
But you would still be planning on a combined, I'll say, workshop and.
For lighting and water?
Yeah.
No, if it's lighting and water, they would go to Searle Street, and then the treatment plant would just do the treatment plant. So we'll have to expand the treatment plant for an additional filter, but we wouldn't have to spend the money to put an admin function up there. That would go up to Searle Street.
Okay, I think I'm understanding.
So if the consolidation doesn't happen, the treatment plant gets expanded for treatment plant processes, but also for admin offices.
Yeah.
If the consolidation does happen, then we leave that part of it out and just they move up to Searle Street where Dave is.
Yeah. Okay.
So then if you look at the middle there, it talks about contingencies. So I sat down with Small Water Systems, Bruce Trumbull, who's there now, and we discussed this in some detail. So we carried $52,000 a year for a consultant to be there, a company like Small Water Systems, which is 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is more than enough time, especially when you have a water engineer built in. But that's what we projected as the worst case scenario for getting Dave through a merger.
So that's a short term?
It's 1 year.
Okay.
Yep. And I'd be shocked. I don't think Dave's going to want to spend 2 hours a day with one individual. So I'd be shocked if that's what comes in at. But that's what we carry for this purpose. And then years 2 and 3, we carry $10,000 just when Dave hits a snag, he'd be able to call Small Water Systems or a company like Small Water Systems, and he'd be able to get some guidance on some things. So then, Joe, going to your contingency plan, if things were starting to get off the rails, what we would do is bring in Small Water Systems or a company like them for 3 hours a day, which he thought was, again, more than enough, especially considering you have a water engineer on staff, to get the department through whatever, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or eternity. That was enough time in a day to. And they run plenty of towns similar to that structure. He was very comfortable with those, carrying that more than enough. Again, I don't feel like that will ever be the case, but I do agree with you, Joe, that that's a good thing to build in there for a worst case scenario.
If I may, your note there says that you presently are doing using that type of services.
We are, yep.
And you would probably,
yeah, I mean, the person
even without a merger, you're presently using that type, and you would probably continue to have to use that type of services.
Well, they'd be different. I mean, these small water systems is managing the place. Once we consolidate, they're not going to need that.
It'd just be as needed, right?
Be as needed, but
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's,
yeah.
because to me, the note reads that we'll continue to use consulting.
Well, there's consultants that do all sorts of things. You wouldn't need them necessarily with the management part of it, but there could be treatment plant projects that you might.
If he was to further go into his gas generator type of thing, you might.
Right, yeah. Exactly. We use them on the electric side as well. It's just part of our life. There's just too much to keep track of. Yeah. There's people that are out there that are narrowly focused in these different things, and I'm sure all of you in your businesses do the same. We'll use them. It's just to a lesser extent. I mean, you try to trim them because they're usually not real cheap, but so you try to do as much as you can. Sometimes it's a means to an end. You use them, and they kind of hand off to you a little bit, but you're always bringing them in for reporting and different things.
For me, yeah, when you do that, do they have to come on site, or is this all remote work?
It depends on what they're doing. Yeah. And sometimes on the electric side, if I have a small engineering project, they have access to our GIS drawings, so he can just go right into them. They can see everything that I can see, and work it up and send it over by email.
Yeah, that's
so
easier.
It's nice.
These numbers here, Kip, are on-site numbers. The 78 grand, the 52 grand.
Okay.
So those are actually having a body here.
Water's not really there as compared to light as far as having services. You need someone on site to be at the treatment plant to understand what's going on with the processes on the filter trains and the treatment. And then also if you have any problems with the distribution mains as well, someone needs to be on site.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, regarding this contingency, okay, it has been cited, and where my concern is more so that Dave wakes up one day and says, you know what, this was a mistake, for whatever reason, right?
Yep.
Again, I know you don't think it's going to happen, right? Well, but he says, you know what, but I still want to manage the light department, right? That's my bread and butter, right? That's what I know, the whole thing. So you're saying that if that happens, you would then just go to the consultant, right? And they're now managing for $78,000 per year. Yes?
They're working for Dave, overseeing part of the water department with Dave, yeah.
Okay. And how long would that go? Would just be... They would just go, or would you then just go back to the old model that you would then hire a manager?
No.
For the water department?
No. Once a consolidation happens, you would never go back to having two general managers.
Okay. Because that is a concern. Right? When we have a light manager that's strong, I wouldn't want Dave to have to then, vacate his position because we want someone managing both departments, which is what we're talking about here. So, again, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
One thing I can update you guys on with that is we had a light meeting last Thursday. And we have a framework in place with Dave. Considering the merger happens or doesn't happen, 3-year contract with him to either be just light department manager or a light and water department manager, depending on the outcome of the town meeting vote. Mm-hmm. So we have commitment for Dave for 3 years to see us off the ground. So I'm going to jump around a little bit with you, Joe, but One of Steve's other questions was third-party review, which we're working with AECom on. I was hoping to have something tonight. They laughed at me. So it was too.
Who's the
a national consultant firm. They're
engineering.
Engineering, yeah.
Engineering. So what's the scope?
Heavily involved in both light and water.
So what's the scope of their work?
To analyze the consolidation.
Okay. And are they going to come up with recommendations or what's the outcome? What do you guys
No, they're vetting our plan. They're going to vet our numbers,
okay,
and come up with, make sure we didn't miss anything, any blind spots.
Okay.
And see if there's any other benefits that maybe we didn't think of.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So they plan on presenting to you guys? Or
Yep. Yep, and they offered to come in for speak to you if that's something you would want.
Do they have an ETA on when they'd be completed with their report?
No, I haven't got that far yet. I'm hoping. I want to push them to get it done, but I want it to be a valuable report.
No, absolutely. I just didn't know if you had within the contract with these guys if you had a start and end date.
No. I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be within 3 weeks. But we'll have, I mean, this is. Again, I know to you guys this might seem like it's foreign, but I mean, I talked to them and they're like, yeah, it's common sense. It was because again, they're in the industry, so there was a lot of things there that they were like, yeah, no, this is, and he said there's about 15 reasons why we do something like this. And why I said this, Joe, is one of them was, he says this will better your general manager, and he said you'll now have a bigger net to cast because now you're instead of being 6-7 employees, you're 11, 12, 13 employees, whatever it ends up being. You have a bigger department, more responsibility. You're pulling from two different industries. He thought, and I saw the way you saw it as well. He saw it as the opposite. He thought this might be a way to keep a guy like Dave Schofield here because you're going to challenge him and make him want to grow, rather than lose a guy like Dave who wants to challenge himself and go somewhere else. So hopefully that'll be in their report because I know it's a concern of the selectmen.
Well, along those same lines, we touched upon it a little bit. Have you guys had a discussion about compensation?
Yep.
Okay, Dave, if you don't mind me asking, are you comfortable where this is at?
Yes, very comfortable.
Okay. All right. Because as you know, that was important. I mean,
I appreciate that.
Feeling, and I don't want to wake it up one day and say, "Man, this is just way too much work for the increase that I had." Money sometimes is a detractor, even if you like the job, right? Because you have responsibilities, right?
And the 3 light commissioners are, we like Dave as well, so we don't want to lose him. So those are considerations we all made when we move forward with this.
Okay.
I mean, there's no bigger Dave Schofield fans than the 3 light commissioners.
I might.
Just one more question.
Sure.
So the new position for the water engineer.
Yep.
Considering the market and whatnot, do you guys think that would be hard to fill, or is that going to be a tough one to?
No, I think that's an easier job to fill.
Yeah.
And the number I carried in here is higher than what the market is, to make sure that we can, if we struggle getting somebody at market value, we have a little room in there to make sure we can fill it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
John, what's the sentiment of the employees now? I'm sure they've all been kind of brought up to speed on what's potentially coming down the road. Any issues, with what their thoughts are on it, and any concerns?
You asking me or Dave or
anybody?
I haven't heard anything from the water side.
No.
Yeah, I can't speak for the water side, but on the electric side, like the operations are going to basically stay the same. It doesn't really affect them too much. If anything, there'd be some in-kind, as Steve had mentioned, probably some in-kind work that could help each other out with a little here and there, I think. The office life will change in there, but we've discussed that. We currently use Northern Data billing systems. It's the exact same system. It's not going to change that much. So we've been talking to them about that. We have a very, very capable staff in there right now. And they're confident. They're confident that they can do this, and I'm confident.
So just so we'll get one bill that has a water section and a electric section.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, yeah.
Won't be overnight, but eventually we'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, before I go.
Yeah, I can confidently project that, I think.
Tim, if this goes through, what are your thoughts? What does the first year look like?
That's a good question. I think organization-wise, we'd have to move into the spots that we need to move into. We'd have to hire a water engineer. We'd have to look at how we're going to merge the two business departments, see what happens there. I can start on my business project, my building project again, which I kind of put off a little bit because this was happening. We start looking at that. But I think it would be important to get the structure in place. I like to think, without my eyes getting too big for my stomach, that I could start looking at bonding issues and capital projects, particularly on the water side. I'd like to hit that hard right away, like we talked about the savings. And in communication, like you and I had talked about, Joan, I think it's a big piece. I think the folks need to know that, yeah, we have some issues over here, but these are New England-wide. I mean, all of the water systems in this region are aging. It's not just us. I know a lot of people, you may too, friends of mine in town, that think that, we're out on an island alone and somehow we have bad water and everybody else has great water. That's just not, it's simply not the case. But, so I think people will feel better knowing that, we're getting there. Things are moving forward, and this capital project is going to help in this area, and we're moving forward, and we're going to get there. You're talking about tens of millions of dollars worth of projects, so I'm sure I'll probably be handing the ball off to somebody in 7-8 years, but I'm hoping to take a big bite out of those and get us the water quality up there, and the organizations really firing on all cylinders for a handoff at that point. I hope that answers your question. There's a lot of moving parts, but I think the organization and starting to move ahead on capital projects.
Yeah, I mean, I find that things like this, the first year is critical because you're going to put some really firm groundwork in place, not only with infrastructure, people, things of that nature, but you also are taking over a department, but you also still have the light department that you're still overseeing at the same time.
Yep.
Right. So you're going to wear a lot of hats that first year. I think if you can get by that first year, not that you coast after that, but things get a little easier, right? Because you put all those essential parts in place, in the first year. So I do think it is critical to come up with that business plan for yourself, to map out what is needed to make this work.
Right.
From the system standpoint, people standpoint, infrastructure standpoint, there's a lot of things that encompass this.
Sure.
So
absolutely,
encourage you to think a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'd like to add before you go that, obviously the commissioners on both the light and the water side want to see Dave succeed, and we're also involved in municipalities and other towns, so we understand what he'd have to be going through. We're willing to obviously put in the extra effort to make sure we're successful in the merger if it happens, or even successful just making this town have better water quality, being able to communicate with the residents, and just provide an overall better customer experience for everybody.
Agreed. Further questions? Go ahead, Gary.
You were mentioning earlier about something you were hoping that you were dreaming you'd have it first tonight. But I think this is a good time to come up. If I remember right, you got 2 dates where you're hoping to have some public meetings. One was April 10th. And
March 27th and April 10th.
And April 10th.
April. And, I think those dates are good to get out wherever we can. And, I think you may have felt a little pushed when you were here last, but part of what I look at what we do here, I mean, yes, we have the responsibility of putting it on the warrant, but the townspeople have the responsibility of what happens. And a lot of the tough questions that we ask here are just preparing for that town meeting, or hopefully maybe someone's listening tonight and won't have to ask those questions.
I appreciate the push, Gary. I mean, hopefully tonight I brought back something that's easier to look at for you guys. So the push between the boards going back and forth, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how good things happen. So
yeah, and like I say, I think it prepares everybody more for town meeting.
I couldn't agree more.
I hope you've got some, whoever it is will have some presentation for not just those 2 dates that you've got in March and April, but then on town meeting floor
Yes.
also. Thank you.
In terms of the rates, so for the water and electric, what are we projecting for the rate pay?
Which one do you want to talk about first?
I'm sorry.
The electric one might be an easier one to talk about.
Okay.
So on both of these graphs, what I try to do is show the projected rate increase without doing a merger, and then one doing the merger, and then one with the built-in contingency plan, to show that, you know, if this was to fail, it's still a positive outlook, at least on the rates. And then I try to put some bonding in there. So if we were to do, for instance, the light department, if we were to do the generators, there's going to be bonding there. So that's going to impact rates, obviously. So without the merger, after 5 years, we're projected to be, you know, just under $1,650 annual cost to average annual cost to a residential light payer. And then if we were to do the merger and do the generators, you know, you're looking at about $1,400 at 5 years out.
Well, can I stop you there? So if I'm looking at this here, it looks like the rates go down. With the merger, they go down to about $1,400?
Correct. With the merger and doing the generators.
Oh, and doing the generators.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So rates are going to go down? Is that what you're saying?
On the light side, rates should go down. Okay. Absolutely.
Because I think that's the discussion that we were having before.
Well, we're talking more specifically with the water department. That's a different story with the water. That's why we did light first.
Okay. No,
that's the easy one.
And how is that just directly correlated to installing the generator? If you don't install a generator, then
well, there's a lot of money there, yeah.
Anything, right?
Well, the rates will go down, but yeah, I mean, I would have to really blow this graph up because it's only $100,000 a year on an $8 million budget, so it's not a huge rate impact.
Okay,
they still go down, but
yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, this includes doing the generators.
We make a lot of assumptions there. There's an enormous pressure for renewable energies from the state level. Enormous isn't a big enough word, actually. There's a lot of groups that want to come in, and they're not really focused on the finances. They're focused on other things, and that's even starting to creep its way into the public power life, where normally we have renewables in our portfolio, always have. We have nuclear power, which is non-carbon emitting. We have a pretty clean portfolio here, but we're assuming that things are steady and they're going up a little bit, but you know, there's some moving pieces in there. The generator is the avoided cost of paying for power, which is 75-80% of the budget of the light plan is the power costs. Mm-hmm. So when you can shave some of that off using these peakers, you can. You know, it's all, you're talking about capacity and transmission, and if nothing has changed in the market, which the market does change, these numbers should hold. I think they will, and I think if we could do all of this, I think there's no way that the rates actually wouldn't go down a little bit. Okay. And the growth is important, too. I think we're seeing some growth. I anticipate, you know, even if half of the projects we're talking about right now get built, and Healthy Farms is talking about expanding 3 times the size of their electric service. They're asking me to work numbers up now, and so even if some of those things get done, that will help us. in the grand scheme of things, and it should help with the residential rate, which is what I'm trying to get to. Right now, we're a bedroom community, so just like the tax base, the rate base has to shoulder everything too. We want to get to the point where if we have some responsible growth with business in town, we can kind of maneuver a little bit and take a little bit of that burden off of the ratepayers, the residential ratepayers, I should say.
Hey, gentlemen, we have about 5 minutes left on this discussion, okay?
Yep. Do you want to jump to the water real quick, Steve?
I don't want to do that.
So here, Steve, you'll see no matter what happens, is a rate increase, and that's because the commission is committed to trying to fix the water issues. So every one of these blue columns is a project and a bonding. The new tank's happening, the water main's happening. It's the latter two that will really help water quality by increasing capacity and building an in-ground tank to help during maintenance not let some of the iron. What happens when we backwash the filters? Some of that iron gets out in the system. That's what causes nuisances. So that clear will take that away. And then that Clarify, that last project, that knocks down the iron before it hits the filter. So that way the filter could be more efficient in removing it. So,
what does TP stand for? Sorry.
Treatment plant.
Oh, that's treatment. Okay, perfect.
So yeah, if we spend $10 million in bond tank, of course rates are going to go up. What I try to show is without the merger, you have that red line there. It hits about just shy of $1,200, and then if we do the merger, it's just over $1,000 a year. And then the contingency is about halfway there. It's about $1,100.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, if I could, actually, I was having a conversation today with Mike. Are we too early to start to talk about attorneys on both sides understanding, getting together? What's the process going to be? What's the legislation that needs to happen? Is that something that...
No, it's not too early, Steve. And that was going to be my parting discussion. We need to get a warrant article drawn up.
So that's all done because we were ready to go last year. At least the water department was. So we drafted the legislation. We drafted the warrant article.
Okay.
So I just got to get it to you guys again.
Yeah, please do.
Yep.
Then we'll have our council review it.
And Darren was involved with that.
Oh, he was?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Then it's probably
even better.
Be okay.
Yeah.
I'll need copies of it.
Absolutely. Yep. I can get that to you, Mike.
I think the other point Mike brought up was in terms of, like, from a financial standpoint or an accounting standpoint, why would we not want to consolidate the two enterprises? So you save money with having one audit and things like that. Can you guys make a conscious decision to say that we're going to keep things completely separate from funding? What was the reason for that?
Well, I think it's Mass General law. But even if it wasn't, we want the water rates to fund water infrastructure projects and electric rates to fund electric. So we don't want to subsidize water with electric rates and vice versa. We should be collecting, the money from the right ratepayer to pay for the right project.
Is that how you guys do it in Littleton?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if you know any, Steve, municipal has consolidated funds. I'm not sure you can.
I don't think you can do that.
Not allowed to. Okay. And just so people at home, in case they don't know, I was reading today. It looks like town of Littleton has the lowest rate for electric and water.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
So we can pray for that to this project.
Yeah, we got a few things going for us in Littleton, not just the merger.
Right.
All right, guys. So, well, first and foremost, thank all of you, for taking some time away from family to come and talk to us. You've been very open with your time, open to discussion, open for questions, and I also encourage any board members who have additional questions, to fire them off to. I'll just say Munich and
sure. Yeah.
Not to burden you with anything more, but sometimes people think of other questions after the fact. So at this point, what are our next steps, Mike? We'll get the copy of the warrant. I know town council will look at that, and then what happens?
Well, their town council is our town council.
Okay, but I mean
KP Law.
Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Independence Street. Independence Street. I don't know if we want to have them come in front, or just if they have it at one of their meetings, maybe we can have a joint meeting where we can listen.
So if that independent study is done in 3 weeks, we're at the end of February. That's still enough time. This board would need to vote the warrant by the end of March, right, Mike? To put it on for town meeting?
2 weeks before.
It's 2 weeks before?
You could, we'd want to have it done no later than April 3rd.
April 3rd, okay. So we can still vote it, say the last meeting of March?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so...
What date is that, Mike?
Probably 27th or 28th.
All right, so Steve brought it up.
March 25th.
Fellow board members, do everyone want to hear the results of the independent study before we kind of move forward?
If it's available, it'd be helpful. Just another piece.
Gary?
Well, they'll be presenting at that. Will that be what's being presented at your meetings that you're having in March and April?
We didn't go over the details of when they're going to present, but I mean,
If we have it earlier, we could maybe get it out earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it here. I can try to make their meetings. I mean, whatever. I'll just try to stay educated.
Well, here's the thing. Because if this board isn't going to vote to put it on the warrant, I want to give these guys enough time, because they will have an option to do a citizen's petition if we don't feel like it's a good thing and we don't vote it, for a warrant. So I would like to get to a point where we can vote on this and still give them enough time if we don't vote it through to the warrant.
No, just to let you know, I'm I'm okay with putting it on the warrant, because ultimately it falls up to the residents of the town. I mean, I've been presented with enough to move this forward.
Okay.
That's I'm telling. So just so that the rest of the board knows that.
Yeah, no, I just meant that if it was available, I'd love to see it, but I don't need it to vote.
Okay. I know Steve wants to see it. Doug, what are your thoughts?
I don't need it to move it forward. I think that study is just to...
Yeah, we'll share with you guys, absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to have, but I don't need it to move it forward.
And neither do I. If I could throw out, the reason I think that this has been thrown out there is the fact that we have had a lack of good quality management from a high level, in the water department. I love to see that there are savings from the number standpoint, but that's actually, for me, a distant second to the fact that we would have a strong management team in place, moving forward. I think from the top of the house, if you have a strong management in place, then, kind of things trickle down to different levels, whether it be financial, operational, people, as far as personnel. So for me, this is what this merger is about. Again, the financials are a help, but I've been really trying to get my arms in it. As everyone has seen, my questions have been around him, Dave, because I want to make sure he's comfortable. I want to make sure, from the salary standpoint, operations, being a light guy, I want to make sure he was okay with water. Talk about the first year, having his arms around what that first year looks like. we've just lacked that, and it's kind of a mess. In addition, as far as management's concerned, we need a good short and long-term vision on how to get water quality, to where it needs to be. We've had too many people in this town complain about water quality, and I just haven't seen any movement to it. It's because we haven't had, to me, the right people in place. So for me, I don't need that report because I feel comfortable with the fact that Dave here feels comfortable with the position, his compensation. I feel strongly that he'll stay in place and do some quality things. So with that being said, like I said, I'd like to see it as well because it's always interesting to see the report. Yes. But I also think that we could move this forward. So with that said,
I have complete confidence in the leadership that we have, from the water commissioners and the light commissioners to the managers, and their expertise. They're in the industry. I'm a telephone guy. I'm not an electric guy. I'm not a water guy. So if they put these things together, I'm sure, and I have confidence that it will be of the highest quality, and they won't move forward unless it's right.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we wait, for Mike to get that information? Yep. And if we're comfortable, we might even be ready to vote it, on February 25th.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
All right.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Just, on what you said, Mr. Chairman, anything that can make Steve feel more comfortable, and with a lot of what you just said, I mean, anything we can do will make the townspeople make a better educated decision also. So,
yeah, and I completely agree with you guys. I mean, from an operational, I don't have any concerns about the commissioners. I just want to make sure from a purely merger consolidating
Thank you.
Thank you.
standpoint that we're doing this correctly. We make sure that we understand, and they're doing the vetting, right? So that's what Nick said, that he wants to make sure that they cut everything, right? So if you haven't been through a merger, you could be a great operational person, right? You can run a department great, but if you haven't been through a merger, you don't know the details of it. Some things could slip your mind. Right? Yeah. So that's why the independent study, I think, is important as part of an overall decision. So, thank you.
Sure. The other angle I'd like to look into, especially for our finance department, the accountant and the treasurer, to see and consult with the DOR to see how things would change here internally, if at all. But I suspect there'll be some internal changes for finance.
Yeah.
So I'll have Treasury and accounting talk to the DOR about that.
Okay.
Yeah. We've in the past had water department related warrant articles that were on the floor. No, it should be that way, and we. Yeah. So we need to make sure we're moving everything forward in that aspect also. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. I'm actually going to skip down just because we put it off last meeting. So I'd like to make sure we hit upon the topic. So we're going to skip down to the limiting marijuana retail outlet bylaw, or I should say potential bylaw. So, with that, Selectman Sadler have brought up the topic. So what I'd like to do is have Selectman Sadler kind of bring it up, talk about what his thoughts are, and then we can have a conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for putting this on, Mr. Chair. I think my general thought about it was, and the proposal here is to limit the number of dispensaries. So this doesn't have anything to do with growers, cultivation, or anything. I believe, and I've communicated with, or we've gotten some information about the statutes and all the requirements from town council. But I think the idea behind this is that if the town voted in favor of legalizing marijuana, so whatever question that was a few years ago, they can put a limit on the number of dispensaries. I think it's basically, it's what, 20% of the number of liquor stores, I think, or package stores, whatever they call it. So I think in our case, it would be, I think we have 5. Do we have a total of 5?
Well,
Crosby's.
Jen and I have been having this running discussion.
Yeah.
And I did get a chance to consult with the legal counsel again today. It's going to put it in writing.
Okay.
But it's based on the number of licenses issued.
Okay.
And we have 2 package stores.
Okay.
All alcohol.
All alcohol. And we have 1 beer and wine license.
Yep.
So that's 3.
Okay. So 20%. So we're still at 1.
20% of that is 0.6, and you have to round up. So that's 1.
Yep.
The one thing that legal counsel cautioned, we do have 7 available. And if those 7 got used, now we're at 1.4. 20% of 7 is 1.4.
You round down?
No, always round up. So that would mean you could have 2 retail outlets.
So that's just package stores, though?
No, it's package stores and beer and wine outlets.
Beer and wine outlets, okay.
Section 15 licenses.
Okay.
Okay.
So when I was talking to legal counsel today, he said, well, you basically have 3 options. You adopt a bylaw, and you have one of 2 choices. You can have a zoning bylaw, which requires 2/3 vote to approve, or you can have a general bylaw, which is just 50% plus 1 vote. He said, but because we are a yes town, we voted yes in every ballot, particularly for the adult use. Somebody could conceivably challenge us. The only way to prevent a challenge is to have a general bylaw and a ballot vote. You could just stop at general and not do a ballot vote, but if we ever get to 7, we're going to get we're going to get a challenge in court for somebody to come into town for a retail store.
Sure.
Quite possibly, not. So
what if we got to 6?
6 is...
That's 1.2.
1.2, you still have to round up.
So it's really 6.
Yeah. So, council suggests that the belt and suspenders approach is the best. Do a bylaw and a ballot vote. But ballot vote can lose, at 51% too.
Right. And we're only talking about dispensaries here.
We're talking about retail outlets.
So that comes into play, maybe cafes, which I know that they really haven't.
Not yet. Yeah, cafes aren't even legal yet.
Right, but I'm just saying that may play into it eventually. You never know, right?
It could.
But my idea, thanks for giving us that update, Mike, on that. But the thoughts around this is I think, it's still a new industry. There's still a lot of risks, right? There's high reward if we look at the financial impact, but there's a whole lot of risk. And I think just, protecting the town for, to wait till it dust settles, see how things go. And if things are great, it's not intrusive for the community, then you can always bring it back to the townspeople and always amend it. The way that I look at this is, the town did vote yes to legalize it, but I don't specifically think that correlates into inviting all businesses, any businesses, and flooding the town with these types of businesses. So that's the concern I have, is that even though we voted yes, that doesn't mean that we want to, indulge ourselves with, with these types of businesses. We have liquor stores that we were just talking about. There's 2 in town, right, that are full liquor. That's a small amount, right? I mean,
that's down. It used to be 3.
Yeah, so we haven't had in how many years?
It's gone down in my lifetime.
Yeah, so it's just I don't see us if we don't put restrictions on it as a town. I just fear that once someone offers us money, and this is happening with all small towns, is we don't have the businesses, and we're strapped for cash, and we don't want to hit the ratepayers, so we've been going down this avenue. But I think we just need to put the brakes on a little bit and say, let's wait and see how it pans out, and if it isn't as intrusive as as we think it's going to be, or as I think it's going to be, then I think we always have an option to allow more people, or allow those types of businesses to come to Georgetown.
Thank you, Steve. So we have one, retail facility which is on the outskirts of town, and this board, on a couple of different occasions, on different conversations that we've had, and Kip, I think this precedes you, so I will note that that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we have mentioned as a board that a lot of us didn't want another dispensary, in town, at least at that point in time. Now we're talking, more than a year ago. So from that standpoint, but we have to make sure we make a differentiation between retail and say what we just approved tonight, which is a business-to-business, facility. So, with that being said, I am also concerned about more retail locations, but I'll open it up to the board. I'd like to hear what everyone's comments are. Who wants to start? Gary, go ahead.
Hearing what Mike said and the percentages and rounding up, and it's based off liquor stores, I'm not that concerned right now with drawing up things and spending money, and it could even go the opposite way. My concern, I don't know if the answer is there, or if I'm asking a question, it doesn't matter. That's what we can limit it to. What power does the board have if another one came in and they said yes? Do we have the power as a board to just say, oh yeah, another one, why not? That's more my question. Because the board could change. I mean, we could all be comfortable, yeah, this is comfortable, but you could have a total change of the board, and if that board so chose. So what I'm saying is we could look towards limiting the power of the board in the future. Any answer on that? Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, I follow. I would have to. The key is to having the ballot vote. That then you're locking future boards to that limit. They can always have another vote and unvote.
Yes, that's what I mean. I mean, Steve mentioned to the fact that we don't know the future. I mean, when when Healthy Farms was here, I asked a question about, what is the future? They're going to be our one dispensary. Do you see perhaps something like some of these, these brewer places and tap rooms, one of the biggest things going now? And we don't know the future of this industry. But, I mean, that's the future. And, I mean, I think we're here for a couple of reasons. The state got into it, obviously. The town was in support of it. Planning board, I believe, was real aggressive when the state held seminars. I think almost every one of their members went. So they knew what to do and went forward and in a way, drafted up the bylaws that I think has put a lot of these people in front of us. And I would hope that we get that type of leadership going forward. If cafes have been a concern of mine too, but I mean, they can be done right also. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I think right now, this year, I'm comfortable where we are with the fact that going by the amount of stores that we have, we're at our limit. If I'm hearing this right.
No, that's not the case, right? It's not automatic that it's one, right?
Not without a bylaw.
Right. So you need a bylaw to put the limit on.
Well, we have a recreational cannabis bylaw.
But that didn't
limit the number of...
No, because the minimum with however many liquor stores you have, we'll call it 3 licenses, right? 0.6 would be a minimum of 1. And the planning board saw in their judgment to not limit it to 1.
Right.
And the town meeting voted and passed that bylaw.
So see, because this was real questionable when we had the attorneys in here, and I mean, I don't think that we really got a clear-cut answer. So if I'm hearing what you folks think, we actually, as a board, would have the authority to say, yeah, we can have another one.
We don't say, yeah, we can have another one. All we do is a host agreement. It's the planning board that...
And they didn't limit it to just 1.
No.
I think the way that it works right now, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we can allow as many dispensaries as we want, because we don't have it specifically written in the bylaws that say it's only limited to 1 dispensary.
Well, I hesitate, though, because 2008, the town voted on a ballot to decriminalize cannabis. 2012, the town voted in favor of question 3, which was the medical cannabis ballot initiative. After that, an overlay district was developed and a bylaw was developed, and town meeting voted for that. In 2016, question 4 came around. The town voted in favor of recreational cannabis, as well as a recreational cannabis overlay district and a recreational cannabis bylaw. The town has been pretty clear since 2008 to 2019, that's 11 years. They've been very clear on what they want. And I don't think sitting here as a board of 5 that we have the right to override the majority of voters in the community.
Well, I don't know that we would.
Hold on. Thank you. Finish.
Sorry. Okay, for now.
All right, Kip, why don't we go ahead?
Just to clarify, when the town voted for the recreational cannabis, what exactly was that language? Like, what did they approve?
It was on the ballot.
Right, but just to legalize it, were there any stipulations associated with it?
No.
In terms of establishments or...
No, it was a legalization statewide of recreational cannabis.
Right.
That was
it stopped
legalized.
There. Right, okay.
Then it was left to the communities to develop an overlay district and a bylaw if they, yay or nay for that, which we did. So on at least 6 different occasions, the town has voted in favor of recreational cannabis. I mean, I voted no on question 4, but, the town voted. It'd be like, well, never mind. I just think that we really have to take into consideration of what the voters of the community voted for. And I don't think it's right because 5 people, or a majority of 5 people might say, well, I don't like that, and then override what the voters are talking about and what they've expressly voted for.
But are we doing that, or we'd have to have another ballot vote? So what we're doing is really just throwing it back to the voters.
Well, we have a bylaw that already states we can have more than one.
But that's the thing. Maybe we have put it on the ballot again. If we decide to and have the voters vote it again. Based on the fact that some people might be concerned about how this is progressing with different businesses coming in town, and maybe they say, well, we have all these other businesses in town. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe some that voted yes want to vote no now.
The overlay district is in an industrial commercial zone, and it really doesn't lend itself well to retail establishment. Mm-hmm. And we can all speculate on the future, but it's very easy for anybody with deep pockets to come in and challenge any bylaw that we have regarding this.
Well,
you might want to have somebody that wants to, just for the sake of it, there's a place down beside Partners in Rehab that's been empty for years. You might want somebody may want to come in there, and they may want to have a retail establishment there. But they can't because it's not an overlay district. Or they could easily come and challenge the bylaw and say we're being discriminatory towards little mom and pop businesses. I mean, that's where it is.
Yeah. So I mean, I think 2 points on that. One, I voted in favor of legalizing, right?
It's ironic.
Yeah, I voted in favor of legalizing, but that, to me, in my mind, that didn't translate into allow as many that want to come into town because we voted yes. And I don't think that is what people who voted yes for. They didn't say it's a free-for-all now, right? Yeah, sure, I vote yes. If every single spot we have in town, let's fill it with these places because we voted yes. That's not, I think, the thinking of people. Yeah. In terms of us as one board, you do have to remember that we actually saw certain overlay districts in the downtown area, and we actually removed those by a town meeting vote. So the town voted for it. And then we looked at it and we said, well, this may not be sensible, to have them in these locations, and we removed them. So I don't think that by doing that, we took a stance that said, I don't like it, I want them to get out of there. I just think that, being conservative in saying, it's great that the town voted yes, we get some income from these people, but that's not the only types of businesses that people want in town. I mean, it's going to eventually just become oversaturated, right? It's like pizza places right in town. There's a gazillion pizza places here.
And I've heard people say that they want a bylaw to restrict the number of pizza places.
Well, yeah.
So what's
But
next?
if you like pizza, though, right?
Restrict the number of...
you can't say I like pizza, so you can have 20 come in.
We have to remember that this is a legal business. This is a legalized business in the state.
No, I understand.
I know where you're coming from.
But my point is commercialization isn't... If you voted yes, you didn't vote for commercializing the heck out of your town. But that's my only point.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I find it pretty ironic that the only businesses that are looking, not only, but very few what you may call traditional businesses are seeking to move here. But the ones that are looking to move here and build buildings which will increase the tax revenue those businesses in a new industry. You know, I mean, it's, I don't know. I know what you're saying, Steve. I can appreciate that.
That's fine. Gary, did you have another statement?
In a way, I'm still confused. I don't think I'm quite getting it, but and I think because of that, I don't know that I don't need to visit anything at this year with bylaws and voting. But if the board so chooses to do, then they do.
Yeah, I mean, I have some questions and some homework to do myself to understand exactly where we stand here. But to me, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I don't want a bunch of retail spots downtown either. Like, I just don't want that. That being said, the likelihood of that happening anytime in the near future or the short term, I just don't see that happening right now. So I don't think it's something that's urgent that we need to move on now. But in essence, I agree with Steve. I think we need to keep an eye on it. But I think, to your point, I think we need to see how this pans out. I think we've got some time to react to this.
So if you think we got time, listen. The old saying goes: "The best time is now," right? Or something along those lines. Why wait? If you feel that way.
I don't think we have enough information. I don't think we know what the direction of the industry is going in terms of retail downtown.
But if you have something in place, okay, and you limit, again, we're just talking dispensary. We're not talking B2B or anything like that. If you feel like, and you said it already, all right, you said it. You have concerns over retail establishments. So if you have a concern over retail establishments, then you can say, well, there's no real need for it now. But at the same time, the best time is now to do something. And you know what? Doug's right. I mean, even if you had a bylaw, on the flip side, if you had a bylaw, someone with deep pockets can come in and contest it, no problem. But then on the flip side of that, maybe that same investor or business owner says, hey, I want to go to Georgetown. Oh, man, there's a bylaw. Okay, I got to find someplace else. I don't want to go to court proceedings and spend all this money. So that actually could be a wall, that they have to jump over that they might not want to jump over. They might say, hey, listen, Topsfield, Ipswich, they don't have this, right? So therefore, why don't we go explore there? So yes, I agree. We're far from 6, licenses and whatever, but to me, if you feel, a certain way, and don't forget, gentlemen, we also represent citizens of this town. If you have heard enough from people, and I will throw out there, I have, okay, and I'm in a demographic that has kids. I have kids, a demographic that, they're in schools, they get concerned about where their kids are going and what they have access to and blah, blah, blah. So the people I talk to, and to me, the ones I represent, do not want another retail. They actually don't care about the B2B. They're fine. When I explain to them, they get the facts. But retail is getting a little scary for them, no doubt. So I will say that I'm on board with Steve on this, and best time is now if we're going to do it. Listen, if we don't do it this year, maybe we approach it next year. But I always said that I don't want another dispensary in town. It's just it's me. I have no problem with the B2Bs, and it's good business if they feel like it's there. But retail, you get into certain other areas of just business and commerce and things like that. Now you're opening up to some dangers to our younger generation that maybe we don't want to expose them to. So
the word on the street is Georgetown is very welcoming to these types of businesses. I don't know any, and I'm not differentiating them between retail or not, but if we look across the Commonwealth, I can tell you we'd be hard pressed to find a small town that has as many establishments as our town does. If we look at the city of Boston, Cambridge, I don't even think that they come close right now to what we have. So that kind of spurs my concern that, well, all the laws haven't been completely vetted out, right? So who knows what the future's going to be about allowing us a dispensary to come in. It could be a growing facility that there's some loophole in there that says now you can be retail, if you want. All I'm saying is that if we take a conservative approach, the way we did with the moratorium, and I think we all voted in favor of the moratorium because we didn't know what was going to happen. We said no retail, any type of establishments for, I believe it was a year, right? I think we did that 2 years ago, Mike. Did we do the moratorium?
We did it.
We did a temporary
I think it was
moratorium.
it was about a year.
So we didn't want
at a fall town meeting.
Yeah. We didn't want any establishments to come in. Not that we didn't want them here. We just took a conservative approach and said we're not really sure what's going to happen. So I kind of look at this the same way, is that we have this option now in place, and the state is giving you an option to limit, even though you voted yes. They're giving you an option to vote it and to say only go to 20% of your liquor stores. So it's an option out there that if the town wants to do it, I think it's there, and I think it's a smart thing to do because, again, it's the unknown, right? It's a brand new industry still working.
All right, last statement from Doug, and then we're going to move on.
If I remember correctly, the reason we voted for the moratorium was to give the planning board and the town time to develop bylaws regarding recreation.
Yes.
It wasn't to limit anybody. It was to give the town time to develop bylaws.
All right, so listen, that was a healthy discussion. It was good to get it out there. Let's revisit it at the next meeting, okay? Kind of get your thoughts together. We do have some time, to talk further about it. So thanks for bringing it up. I certainly appreciate it. So moving on to back to the old business. Mike, why don't you bring us up to speed on National Ave?
Well, you have a invitation for proposals that was scrubbed by legal counsel. It also included, as you can see, a purchase and sale agreement and a development agreement. Read into the IFP, it's either on the second or third page, it says this is all contingent upon approval by town meeting vote.
Yeah, that.
So nothing's going to happen until we get a warrant article on the May ballot.
Okay, so the highlighting on there was highlighting for information, not that was something that was coming off.
No, that was unknown information that. Because I talked to the Inspector General's office, and they never mentioned anything about it not applying to 30B. And it applies to a different bylaw because it's a tax-deeded property. So we have to get permission from the town meeting to sell.
Majority vote, Mike?
Yes.
All right, so this, as you guys know, I've been pushing to get this on the market, so this is really disappointing to me. I think, I think this should have been identified a lot sooner, than it was. But with that being said, if it is, voted at town meeting, then, Mike, let's make sure that the next day this thing is ready to go. Whatever we need to do to make sure it's ready to go. If there's something from this board that has to get done, let's get it done. If all we need is town vote and they vote it, let's get it on the next day.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm, but if we put it on the spring special town meeting, then the next day it could go out to bid.
Well, like I said, I just want to make sure
it could start the process for bidding.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to wait till.
Is there anything that this board has to do beforehand?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is there anything that any board?
Well, okay, there's no public hearings required. there is in there. There's a minimum bid, but since we split them, the minimum bid had to be, and I have to check with the treasurer. There was an $83,000 tax bill. So we got to get that $83,000 back first. And I don't know how to split it between the two we're selling two parcels. So I guess we can just, based on the
square footage,
and take a portion.
It's equal to 80.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's close to 50-50.
Just a question. Understand that by you saying the 83,000 was what was old. That wasn't like an evaluation or anything.
That's correct.
Yeah, those what the tax burden was.
And now this is just one thing, so we would sort of have an identical one for the other piece of property.
Yes.
Okay. And there was one mistake. The year 2017 is mentioned in here someplace, but on one of these.
Yeah, I think that's when we took it.
Yeah, Exhibit B. The date. They're blank, but then it says 2017, so that...
All right, so there's nothing else this board needs to do at this point? Or again, any other board?
Determine the minimum and we know we have to get at least the 83.
Yep.
Do you want a higher? You need a minimum for each
parcel.
Each one.
Okay. All right. So why don't we do this? Just because we're once again we're up against it. Why don't we look at this the next meeting?
Yeah.
All right, because obviously there's nothing we can do about it now. Again, disappointing, but it is what it is. Not that we could have had a town vote anyway. I mean, it's we're talking 2 months ago or whatever. It's not like we could have fit this on
the warrant with the speed limit.
So So anyway, with that said, let's revisit this next meeting in terms of think about minimums. We'll talk through all that. Hopefully, we have a more condensed agenda, and we'll have a little bit more time because I want to get to the warrants and everything. Okay, is that fair?
Mr. Chair, do we have a current appraisal on the property?
Appraisal's over a year old, and it's for the single property.
I think we probably have to reappraise if we're selling two properties.
Do we really want to spend that money on a reappraisal?
I know.
Well, the other problem is the assessor isn't going to have it on the two new. He's not even going to have that property assessed until after town meeting. It won't be on this year's taxable rate. So at least we have we paid $5,000 for an appraisal, and it was $327,000 for the whole 26-acre lot, and that's with the limited access. With unlimited access, it was $1.2 million.
Right.
And all that property around it is just sold too.
Including the strip?
Yes. That was all part of that. All that land sold for $175,000.
Who bought that one?
Yeah. Who
A LLC.
So the
$175,000.
The Spike Strip was purchased too?
Yes.
On the township.
So, well, the thing is, he was looking for more money than $175,000 for this.
$3 something.
Yeah, he wanted a lot more money for that. So have we approached this other entity then? Or why don't we approach this other entity and see what we might be able to do? They can't use the land.
They might think about
They're probably going to buy it from us, that land.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I guess. I mean, it's...
John Cashell's been investigating who the LLC is.
Well, I'd like to listen. We have some time now, so why don't we kind of figure this out and maybe sit down with them and either way and see if they have use for that land. If not, maybe we look at doing it. Maybe they're nice enough to even gift it. Who knows? Unless you ask, you don't get. So let's kind of see what their thoughts are on that land, and we'll go from there.
Maybe they want to buy ours, and they already have the piece. They get something extra, so now the value of that land goes up.
Maybe it's a special.
It could be.
Here he goes. Sorry.
All right, moving on, guys. The warrant, Mike, why don't you kick this one off?
The only thing we added to it
Here's one right here, Mike.
was the, what did we add, Jan? What did you add?
The Bailey Lane, the Bailey Lane Lakeshore.
Oh, I didn't print up.
Well, actually, it wasn't Lakeshore. It's townwide.
The speed.
Speed limit.
That's the old
speed
one.
limits on that.
But again, we're not talking just Bailey Lane there, right?
No,
we're talking about townwide.
Townwide. I said that was what brought it up.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, could I make?
I didn't print up.
Perhaps we can bring in Chief Cudmore. So we got an interesting article from one of the residents in town about other towns. Now, I don't know if it's a new statute or not, but other towns are proposing that they can go street by street and regulate speed limits without having to do studies, without having to do traffic studies. And the chief seemed pretty receptive to. Well, I shouldn't put words in his mouth. He said he thought that would be a good article to continue the discussions about speed limits in town.
Street by street?
Yeah, street by street without having to do studies in order to change them. I think the idea behind the one that we have here was it was a blanket, right? We said everything was going to be 30. My understanding of the article, or of the article I read, was that you have the ability to go street by street and say, I want to make that street 30, I want to make this street 25, this 40, without having to do the study that the Department of Transportation requires now. So,
all right, I'll have to read
I just think it's good just to bring in the chief anyways.
Well, this article is for reducing speed limit in thickly settled or business districts.
To 25? It was 25.
You become a 25-mile-an-hour community unless it's posted differently.
So we're really talking side streets, and we're not talking about like 133.
No, you can't, and it can't. You can't touch state routes. State routes.
All right, cool. Well, I'd be interested to see what maybe I can even just call him and see what his thoughts are.
Well, if you remember, Peter was here too, and we talked about just putting it at the entrances of the streets that come into town, so you don't have to put speed limits on every street. I think Peter figured, we need 30 or 40 signs, and if we just did it at the entrance of town on these streets, it was like 9. It was a smaller number.
I think Newburyport, he has that. When you enter town, you see a sign that says 25 unless posted otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I saw one like that entering into Beverly from Wenham.
Yes, I think Melrose has it.
I mean, what are we saving by having, what is that, 25 different, because it was 34 compared to 9, is that right?
Somewhere around.
So what does 25 signs cost?
Plus installation.
Yeah, well, yeah.
$100 a sign.
All encompassing, so,
And then you have all those signs up too that doesn't look that good.
You get rid of the sign pollution.
Yeah.
people don't know.
I'll talk to Chief.
Because otherwise you'd have to have them on all the, on different parts of the street all over town.
Both ends of the
Yeah, both
street.
sides. Yep. And then probably somewhere in between as well, like they do now. So it makes sense.
All right. One thing that I also wanted to bring up regarding the warrant, Mike. Last year I thought it was somewhat embarrassing that we didn't have money to replace the flags. During the spring, we had what was it? Phil, right?
Yeah.
Phil Trapani.
Phil went out and bought
Bought flags, and I mean, that can't happen again. Do we have any money in the budget anywhere, or can we add a line, something? We need money to replace flags. We can't rely on the citizen to do it. That was embarrassing.
Just put it in one of the departments. In the administration department, it could be police or fire. Police tend our flags. I mean, I don't mean
Fire.
fire.
Okay.
If there's a governor's edict of half-mast, they take care of making them go up and down.
So is that in their budget already? Or should we add another?
2 years ago, we asked for a line item of $1,500.
So why don't we do that?
It never made it, and it didn't make it last year either, because we probably forgot about it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to forget about it. This year. How do we get that in? Like I said, that was embarrassing last year. I felt bad about that.
Well, you can talk to the finance committee on Wednesday, and everybody agreed that $1,500 should go in a
Will that do it, Doug?
I'm sorry, what?
Will that do it? $1,500?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So.
Oh, yeah, that'd be more than enough to buy. We should have a spare set.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I just don't want that happening again. That wasn't good.
Well, they stay out in the wind. They stay out all year long. And they really get whipped around when that wind blows.
Yeah. And, we'll talk to Chief about, when spring comes, make sure that we have these available flags for changing, whichever ones need
I
changing.
know Peter has some. I think Peter, he may have a set of military flags that Georgetown Building Supply may have provided funds for that.
Okay.
But as far as the American flags, I forget. I think there's like 19 or 20 American flags around town.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing we do. We have quite a bit, and I'd like to make sure that not only this year, that even moving forward, it shouldn't be something that we should be scrapping for. It's not a ton of money. It should be almost in the forefront of the budget somewhere. To have such a small amount of money, to replace such a big spot in town, in a lot of people's hearts. So we gotta do that. So let's talk about that on Wednesday. Back up to the minutes of January 28th at the top. Everybody have a chance to see those? Mm-hmm. Any questions, issues? If not, if we can get a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's meeting from January 28, 2019 as presented.
Second. Okay, motion second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those are passed. All right. Anybody else have anything else that they'd like to add?
One quick thing.
Yeah.
School tomorrow. I don't know if you saw the text. So let all the kids know that there is school tomorrow, but there'll be no evening activities at all. Just came out.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. I might be behind the 8 ball here. Why wouldn't there be school tomorrow?
Getting some snow tomorrow.
Oh, we're supposed to get snow tomorrow? We can't. We can't. We got to get spring.
We didn't budget it. Snow, we didn't budget it.
Go ahead, Steve.
So, quick question for you, Mike. On Claire.gov, I was looking at the debt section, and it had said that the town of Georgetown was like 92%, had 92% higher debt than all surrounding towns or other surrounding towns. So that's, if I'm not mistaken, I looked at the detail, I just want to confirm, that's the school basically, right?
Oh, yeah.
The bond for the school. So if we take that off, or when that comes off of the roll there, it'll be, well, it'll be down to like $5 million or something, which I think is pretty reasonable, right? It's been reasonable in the past, I guess is my point.
Until the school came along, yeah.
Okay.
Our annual debt service was $700,000. Now it's almost $5 million.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it could be deceiving if you don't look at all the details.
Yeah.
Right? To see that we're really, I mean,
Until other towns have to do the same thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Mike. The Pembroke School, the MSBA has finished their audit, and have we received any money yet?
No.
No.
But instead of the $500,000 we anticipated, we're going to get $1 million.
How long do they have to cough that up now that all this stuff is done?
I think we're on their February board meeting, so it will be within this month. As long, the last I heard, we were on the February agenda.
Okay. And as soon as they approve that, then they cut us a check.
Yeah.
Good.
But that will mean we don't have to borrow $1 million. We borrow $1 million less than what we anticipated.
Good. It's fine.
And that's fine. And it will lower the debt service.
Oh, because they dragged their feet, we went through 3 or 4 rate increases, right?
Oh, well, the bond interest rates are in the 3 to 4% now, instead of the 1 to 3%.
Better than 6.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? All right, so Wednesday, just as a reminder, send an email out. We do have a joint meeting with our Finance and Advisory group. 7 o'clock, Cameron?
Downstairs.
Yeah. Down
second floor.
Second floor. Okay. So be prepared to, really talk about a lot of things to warrant any questions you have. It's really going to be a good open discussion. And, do your best. Anybody not planning on being in? No, fantastic. Okay. Great. So there's that. So back to the question. I also wanted to take a minute to thank Lieutenant Governor Polito, Senator Tarr, and Representative Mira for being here this week. They sat down with a lot of people here from Town Hall, a few selectmen, kind of gave us a lot of background into what's going on with the state, but also we did get a $10,000 grant for some software where the citizens of this town will be able to kind of look at what's being spent in the town. It adds a lot of transparency to what is happening. So I want to thank everyone who attended. It was great to see everyone, and again, we were also able to talk about some other topics that are going on in the state as well. So we thank everyone for taking the time to come to Georgetown. We really appreciate it. With that being said, I think that's it. Our next meeting for the Board of Selectmen is Monday, February 25th, 7 o'clock in this room. If nobody else has anything else, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Good night, all.